Hey guys. This is part 5 of What If Naruto Time Traveled to the Future. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 35 Air. Intriguing. Unexpected, but intriguing. Orochimaru never expected Obito to use his Sharingan's special ability so soon after awakening it. The ability was latent within even the lowest level. That meant it was even more valuable than he'd originally thought. And all that potential and intrigue had just escaped. Orochimaru had found out quite a lot about this time's Obito, and knew half of his body was replaced by the Shodai cells. It gave him the ability to use one of Madara's Rinnegan and control multiple revived Jinchuriki at once. Who knew what this version would be capable of, given time? And if all that wasn't interesting enough, Orochimaru could no longer see through Naruto's eyes using the control tag. In fact, he couldn't sense Naruto at all. Even when the young Jinchuriki had gone back to the past, that had been possible. That meant they were somewhere else, somewhere entirely insulated against outside interference. Orochimaru grinned. There was so much about dimensional jutsu he still didn't know. He lowered his hand from the half-ram seal and shifted his attention back to everyone below. Failing to find their escapees, Kimimaro had gone to calm Jugo before he added even more holes in the wall. Sasuke was still looking up, watching Orochimaru with narrowed eyes, and Suigetsu stood behind him. "What now, Sasuke-kun?" Orochimaru asked. "You followed me here, even after all the trouble you had to go through. I assume it's because of the scroll, unless there's more? Aren't you going after them?" Sasuke said, voice flat. "No. It's no use. They're out of my reach now." He paused. "In fact, I'm glad you came here. What I am most interested in now is helping you along whatever path you choose to take next. Stop lying and tell me what you're really trying to do." Sasuke's voice cut harshly through the end of Orochimaru's statement. "Why would you still be in the war, unless you had something you still wanted to get out of it?" Orochimaru sighed. "Sasuke-kun, what do I need to do to make you believe me? I'll follow whatever it is you want to do. You have my word. Would you like to go to Konoha?" Release the Edo Tensei. Even Kimimaro and Jugo turned to look at him then. Sasuke gave a grim smirk. He was certain Orochimaru wouldn't give up his Uchiha army, especially while the war was still going on. "I want their souls to return where they belong," Sasuke continued. "They aren't pawns to be used for your scheme. Things with Itachi must have gone well." Sasuke just waited. "Ah well. It can't be helped." Without any further stalling, Orochimaru ran through the signs, not bothering to hide them from Sasuke's carefully watching eyes. He held the last one for a second longer than the rest, then dropped his hands down by his sides. Everyone turned and watched in disbelief as Kimimaro started glowing, a halo of light surrounding his body. Fine lines appeared and cracked open all over him. Even he seemed surprised, looking down at his own disintegrating hands as if he could hardly believe it. He looked at Jugo and smiled as if. And very shortly, he was gone. A pile of ash and a corpse were all he left behind. Sasuke watched with the rest, then turned back to Orochimaru without missing a beat. "How do I know you didn't just send him back, and not the others? If you go above ground, you'll find that our guards have also disappeared, and the barrier is gone," Orochimaru said, lifting his palms in a careless shrug. "I suppose you can't verify the rest without going to the battlefield, but I promise they've all been dispelled. Is there anything else? Why did you summon them in the first place? The real reason this time. And what is it you want from me and the war?" "The Edo Tensei were helping with my project by keeping the allied shinobi force distracted while my Zetsu clones collected living samples. The Zetsu are perfectly adapted for that task, and I didn't want them to be wiped out too quickly, and I admit I didn't want you to get here too soon either. I still had 1 or 2 tests to finish on the time-spanning incarnation jutsu before it could be considered complete. Do you plan to use it on me, as well? Or have you done it already?" Sasuke asked coldly, eyes narrowing. "No, I won't. Not this time." "What do you mean, this time?" "If I am right, this jutsu will allow me to reach into as many times and dimensions as I want. To see into them, to influence them. And eventually, to travel to them myself. But that is something for much later. I will be staying here in this one a while, and for that, the path of the Sasuke right in front of me is much more appealing than reliving the old days. I am much more interested in seeing where you will go from here. The future, unfortunately, is something I can only view second by second as it happens. What about Kabuto? Jugo asked, walking up beside Sasuke to look at Orochimaru. Sasuke said you let him get killed. But we saw the younger version of him just a little while ago. Does that mean you want to relive training him? And what about the rest of us? I have no intention of things with Kabuto going the same as before. He was just a test to see what would happen if a person died after I made a copy of them. I thought there was a chance dying meant all forms of a person in the same plane would be negated. As you saw, that didn't happen. Once brought into existence, one is completely independent from the other. That is, in fact, the most valuable thing about this jutsu. You let him die just for that. Jugo frowned. Don't look so disapproving. It had to be verified, and the least wasteful way was to use someone who was already going to die. His involvement with the war made it impossible for me to move freely while still being trapped within him. There is one method of separation that may not have killed him, but it's not possible without outside help. That's still pretty harsh. Suigetsu muttered, sometimes getting rid of the old, dead skin is necessary. Orochimaru mused. That is why I want to stay here for the time being. After being trapped within Kabuto, I realized something. He imitated the way I lived and tried to possess everything, and failed. So now I'm curious about the different path Sasuke has chosen. For now, that is why his future comes before anyone else's. Sasuke considered this for a moment. Then he reached into his sleeve and pulled out the scroll Suigetsu and Jugo found. Alright then. I will decide where I will go from here, after I can talk to them. Naruto wandered around for a while, trying to figure out where he and Obito had ended up. Or at least figure out if they were still in danger. It was difficult to tell at the moment. On the one hand, no one else seemed to be here, and nothing was happening. On the other, he didn't see any end or escape from this dim, eerie place. And Obito was still unconscious. It hadn't been long, but it was still worrying. Naruto made sure not to wander too far. He was afraid of getting lost in this place where everything looked the same, and most of all, he didn't want to get separated from Obito at a time like this. After walking around several times in a circle with his friend's prone form at the center, Naruto came back and plopped down with a sigh. He crossed his arms and legs and leaned backward, trying to think of a way out of this. Naruto. Huh! Naruto jumped and lost his balance, wheeled his arms around, and nearly fell before righting himself. Kyuubi! You scared me! Don't talk to me out loud. You don't know who could be around here. Huh! Oh, right. Naruto crossed his arms again, and tried sending his thoughts the way he did before. So, do you know where this place is? We're in another dimension. I can't feel Orochimaru's connection with us anymore. I knew there had to be a reason he bothered summoning the Uchiha brat. He wants the boy's Sharingan ability. Wait, so you're saying, Obito brought us here? Naruto looked at Obito, sprawled out on the floor. That makes sense. If he had some kind of special ability, of course Orochimaru would want in on it. But doesn't that mean we're stuck until Obito wakes up? Yes. It seemed the fox wanted to say more, but he hesitated. Naruto tilted his head to the side. That definitely wasn't like him. But before Naruto could ask, the Kyuubi continued. We might be in as much danger as we were before. I think this kid is Madara. What? Naruto exclaimed aloud before he could catch himself. Do you have a screw loose or something? Madara is a geezer even older than the village, right? Obito knows my dad. He was on a team with Kakashi-sensei. I don't mean the real Uchiha Madara. I mean the one who's been going around calling himself that, hiding under a mask so no one can see what he really looks like. What are you talking about? I knew Madara. The person we met had something reminiscent of him, but he also felt different. And his teleportation jutsu felt exactly like the one this boy used. The Madara I knew couldn't do anything like that, even though he must have known all about the Nidaime Hokage space-time jutsu. Just because you never saw him do it, it doesn't mean the masked man is a fake. And he's the older version of this kid. Obito would never grow up to be that awful guy. Naruto fumed mentally. If he brought us here, that means he just saved our lives, right? Even if it's the same ability, for all we know, Madara stole Obito's power for himself, just like Orochimaru is trying to do. I can see why they'd want it. But if that's the case, We need to hurry up and find out what happened, so we can save him from Madara in his own time. Now be quiet and let me concentrate. Inside the cage formed by the seal, Kurama lay down with his front legs crossed, affronted. His tails curled and uncurled slowly. Eye stealing for the sake of gaining new abilities isn't uncommon among that clan, but that boy's chakra, his smell, it isn't exactly the same as the masked man, but any similarity is suspect. Concentrating. What are you trying to do? You said no one can reach us here from the outside, right? Naruto shifted and settled as comfortably as possible in a meditative position. But maybe there's a chance we can call out instead. I'm going to try Sage Mode one more time, and see if I can call one of the toads. There's nothing else we can do until Obito wakes up, anyway. Naruto lightly touched his hands together in his lap and closed his eyes. One advantage to being stuck in this place, at least, was its total silence and stillness. The downside, of course, was there was no one here to save him if it went all wrong and he started turning into stone. But that just meant he'd have to get it right this time, didn't it? Naruto took a deep breath and let it out slowly, trying to activate his senses to detect the presence of natural energy. It never took long to get that part of it, but right now even that first step didn't seem to be working. He could sense some of it, but it was very faint, not anything like what he usually felt. But maybe that was because of where they were? It didn't seem like any living thing was around. Naruto sat collecting energy gradually, trying to mold it together with his own the way the toads had taught him. That part of it felt much easier, but trying to get enough to balance with his own large energy was taking a long time. It was like trying to fill a tub of water from a dipping faucet. If he got impatient or let his mind wander off track, it could throw everything off. But gradually it was working. At least, Naruto hoped it was. The energy was moving, circulating with his own. He could feel his features starting to transform like they did before, but he concentrated hard to stop the fear of losing control. Naruto slowly opened his eyes and saw that his hands had turned webbed, and his toes also looked comically frog-like. He slowly felt his face and could tell his cheeks and nose were pudged out, and warts grew on his skin. But at least it didn't seem to be getting any worse. The energy inside of him was stable, more or less. It wasn't as refined as what Fukasaku said his older self could do, but it was something. This could work. This is a Tebeo. Naruto mumbled to himself. Now then, what H? Naruto felt when Obito moved, when he sat up, and was already lifting himself up and out of the way he swung a leg out at him. He jumped before he consciously realized he was moving, pushing off the ground with one hand and landing smoothly a few feet away. All the space around him was an extension of himself. Obito, it's just me. Naruto straightened up. You passed out, oh yeah, and we're in some kind of other dimension or something, and the Kyuubi thinks you're the one who brought us here. What the hell? Obito demanded. What happened to your face? Oh, right. I should hurry before it goes away. Naruto bit his thumb and ran through the hand signs. Kuchios no Jutsu. He slammed his hand down on the ground, face scrunched in concentration. There was a puff of smoke, then an old toad appeared, fast asleep under a tiny blanket. Sinin Ji-chan! Naruto said in surprise, partly because it had worked, and partly because he'd actually managed to get the toad he wanted to get, even in this place. A toad? Obito wondered, clambering to his feet. Huh! Was that? Fukasaku sat up slowly and blinked, then jumped up in a panic. What? Naruto-chan? Wait, am I dreaming? He stopped jumping and pinched his arm. No, Senninji, Naruto said excitedly, bending down. Sorry for ruining your nap, but I summoned you here. And I used Sage Mode, look. He held up his hands to show him, but they were back to normal. Oh. I guess I used it up. But still, I did it, you can ask Obito. Was that why your face was all weird and puffed up? I thought you just got stung by something, Obito said. If that's what you thought, then why did you try to kick me? I thought I was dreaming, too. I'm still not sure I'm not. Naruto-chan, I thought you went back to the past. Fukasaku interrupted, jumping in front of Naruto to get his attention. Why are you here? And where is here? Naruto took a deep breath, then launched into it, talking very fast and making huge gestures the whole time. It's kind of a long story. First I went back to the past, and then I saw you, which was really weird, 'cause we didn't know each other back then. But you said everyone was taking turns watching me, and Ero-sennin was trying to find out what happened. And Arg, What I should have done right then was tell you what happened, but I thought there'd be time for that later, you know. Anyway, I could feel something pulling me, and before I knew it, I was back in the future again, and Orochimaru had captured me and Obito. Obito's like me, he's from the past too. So Orochimaru used the stupid tag he had in me to take over my body and fight Obito to make him get his Sharingan. Oh yeah, he's an Uchiha. Obito, I mean. And he did, and the QB thinks Obito brought us here into a separate dimension with his new eye powers. Obito started. What? Fukasaku cried. You were captured by Orochimaru? But how? It's complicated. He said he was able to track me, but we escaped, so now we need to undo the jutsu in a way where he can't do that again. Can we back up a second here? Obito broke in, waving the conversation to a halt. You keep saying I brought us here, but I don't even know where this is. What happened? We can go into all that later. Senninji, do you think you can get us out of here? Maybe, Fukasaku said, perplexed. I could try leaving here and bringing you two along. Does this young man not know how to get us out? I don't know where this is, or how we got here. I guess it could have been me, but I don't know how to undo it. Why does the QB think it was me? Obito asked Naruto curiously. He's really old, and knows a lot of stuff. I was kind of out of it at the time, but I guess he could still see what happened. Naruto said. He didn't want to bring up the fox's accusations about Obito's identity just yet. He didn't know how to approach the topic, and it didn't matter while they were stuck in here anyway. But you having some kind of special ability would explain why Orochimaru decided to bring you here. It's the only thing that makes sense. You know, Fukasaku said slowly, looking at Obito. I feel like I've seen you somewhere before. Huh? I don't remember you, old man Toad. Sorry. Oh. Minato-sensei had Toad's summons. Maybe he called you on a mission sometime. Ah. That's right. You were on Minato-chan's team. Fukasaku clapped a fist in his palm. But then his wide smile of realization faded, and he looked deeply confused and concerned. But wait, that doesn't seem right. I could have sworn. What is it? Do you know something about me? Obito asked, crouching down quickly to stare at Fukasaku. I thought. The Toad looked at Naruto, then back at Obito. My memory could be going here, but I thought you died a long time ago. Minato-chan didn't show it much, but we could tell he took it hard. They all did. But what? Obito stood up, rubbing his hands through his hair in frustration. I'm not dead. Orochimaru basically confirmed I wasn't like one of those Edo Tensei zombies. What happened to me? He demanded. Was it the Uchiha massacre? Naruto put in, hovering intently over the Toad. I'm sorry, I never knew much about it. Fukasaku said, disconcerted. Minato-chan and I didn't work together very often, because Jiraiya-chan often needed my help during the war. I only remember seeing his team once, and he came to visit Mount Mayaboku shortly after. They thought you were dead. I know that much for sure. It couldn't have been the massacre, because that was long after Minato-chan died. None of this makes any sense. Obito muttered. When I first came here, there was a lot of confusing stuff I didn't understand either. Naruto told him. I eventually figured it out. We'll figure this out too. We just need to leave this place and find Kakashi-sensei. If anyone can tell us what happened, it's him. Whatever happened, you can stop it when you get back. You can't give up, not as long as you have the chance to change things. Yeah. Obito agreed, clenching his fists. Senninji, can you get us out of here? I really don't know how to do it. I can get myself out, but I don't know about the two of you. I doubt I could sense you if I left, so I'd have to transport us all at once. It may not work. But I'll do what Naruto-chan did, and try it using Sage Mode. Obito and Naruto swapped looks as Fukasaku settled down to meditate. Naruto was glad his idea had at least a chance of working, but he could tell Obito was worried. Who could blame him? Once they made it out, they had to get to the bottom of what happened, and why he no longer seemed to be around. They appeared on Mount Mayaboku in a forest of brightly colored stalks bursting with vibrancy and life. The contrast to the pale, dead world they'd come from was almost as disorienting as the trip itself. Obito and Naruto both lost their balance upon arriving, and Fukasaku completely flopped over, breathing heavily. Are you alright, Senninji? Obito asked, helping him sit up. Thank you. That was harder than I thought it would be. I doubt any of the younger ones could have done it. Fukasaku said wearily. This isn't anywhere near the battlefield, Naruto said, leaning on a stalk to regain his balance. How are we supposed to catch up with everything that's going on in the war? Plus, we need to find Kakashi-sensei and talk to him. It had to be here, otherwise it wouldn't have worked, Fukasaku said, a rare note of aggravation in his tone. Besides, I don't think you two should go anywhere near the battlefield. From what we've heard, things have gotten extremely dangerous out there. No one will be able to protect you, and I doubt anyone has time to talk. I am sorry, but maybe it's best you stay here until it's all over. Naruto pushed off from the stalk and bent down to Fukasaku's height. Jay, just hold on a second. Me and Obito don't have time to wait till the war is over. I bet we can handle ourselves just as well as lots of those shinobi out there. We're strong, and our new bodies are practically indestructible. Plus, I can use Sage Mode now. Suddenly, a small toad wearing goggles and a harness jumped down between them. It croaked loudly, inflating its neck in a way that seemed particularly urgent. Oh? What is this? Fukasaku took the scroll from the harness the messenger toad was wearing. It saluted and poofed away. He unrolled the scroll and skimmed over its contents quickly, eyes widening. I can't believe it. The Edo Tensei has been undone. The Edo Uchiha and the others are gone. Fukasaku and Naruto both turned to look at Obito, who looked just as surprised. I guess that proves I'm really not one of them? It seems that way. But I don't understand how this could have happened so suddenly. Unless you boys escaped from Orochimaru had something to do with it. It was Sasuke, Naruto said resolutely. He showed up right before we left. I bet he beat up Orochimaru and made him undo the Edo Tensei. Ah, Fukasaku cleared his throat. I don't know if that's the case or not, but either way, the disappearance of all the Edo Tensei should be a great help to the allied shinobi force. That's even more reason to let us go out there. Besides, even if you say no, we'll find a way to leave this mountain ourselves. Right. Naruto looked at Obito. Fukasaku crossed his arms. You can try leaving if you want to. It'll take you months to get there, even if you figure out the right way to go. Senninji, we can handle it. Obito chimed in. Listen, if I'm going to die or whatever when I get back home, I need to find out how and when. And Naruto says our real bodies are still back where we came from, and he was put up in the hospital when he went back. There's a good chance we might die anyway if we don't make it home in time. That may be true. Alright. I'll take you there, if Naruto-chan shows me he can consistently enter Sage Mode. Haha, yes! Naruto jumped up and punched the air. This should be a piece of cake. Only it wasn't. To Naruto's immense frustration and disappointment, going into Sage Mode in the regular world was a lot harder than it had been in Obito's dimension. He wanted to hurry and get past this so they could leave, but his impatience only made things worse. The mode was not something that could be forced or rushed. He hated that they had run into yet another roadblock, and he hated that his older self had mastered this in a fraction of the time. He could do the first step perfectly on every attempt, but it was still very hard to control the massive amount of energy that was drawn toward him. He could tell it would make him very powerful once he got a hold of it. The problem was getting there. It didn't take long before Obito got bored of watching Naruto and Fukasaku train, and decided to do some training of his own while they were stuck here. He was eager to test his new Sharingan, and he wanted to figure out how to reach that other space whenever he wanted. And after hearing he was Minato's student, the toads were happy to spar with him. Naruto and Obito both thought they would be leaving the mountain quickly, but they ended up staying and training until the shadows grew long. You know, Gammaiden, this is actually pretty fun, Obito said, flopping backward onto the grass. They had been sparring all evening, and he'd long since discarded his jacket, but he stubbornly kept the goggles on no matter how much they made his face sweat. When I get back home, I wonder if I could convince Minato-sensei to let me join the contract for the toads. What do you think? That would be up to him and the boss, Gammaiden said, leaning back under the shade of a leaf. Minato was good though, really impressive for a human. We all watched his fight with the Kyuubi. Boss was in that fight too, so we all wanted to see what would happen. If you plan on saving him, you've got my vote. Obito sat up, face set in determination. I will. Even if I can't think of any way to stop it, I'm sure he'll know what to do once I warn him about it. Or if I never figure out what happened to me. I guess you don't know anything about it either, do you? No, I don't. Sorry, kid. Obito leaned back again with a sigh, putting his hands behind his head and frowning up at the strangely colorful sky hanging over the mountain. Chapter 36 Illusion. It was night before they knew it. Naruto was tired, and the back of his head, neck, and shoulders were sore from all the times he got smacked with a stick. But he persuaded Fukasaku to let him use clones to speed up the training, and it was helping. He was only maintaining 2 at a time, but each time one got popped, Naruto got a better feel for what to do and what not to do. Each one sharpened his sense of balance and control. He was almost there. He could touch that sensation of extended senses he'd felt in the other dimension. Naruto tried pushing his senses a little further, brows furrowed as he concentrated. The first significant thing he sensed was a strange trail of energy that began where he sat and extended out, like an invisible thread that stretched on and on for miles. Frowning, Naruto reached his hand out half-consciously, curling it around the small current. White light flashed behind his eyes like the bright flash of a camera, paralyzing his entire body. A looming pair of yellow eyes flashed, and he wanted to cry out in surprise. But everything was frozen during that split second. Then it was gone, and he pitched forward from a hard smack in the back of the head. "Oh wow! Hey, I had it that time!" Naruto grumbled, rubbing the back of his head. He looked up. All the natural energy had been knocked out of him, and he couldn't sense the thread anymore. "Sorry. It looked like the balance shifted for a second. I thought you were going to lose control of the energy," Fukasaku said. He looked tired as well. Naruto leaned back on his hands, stretching his legs out for a moment. Was it Orochimaru? He could still have a connection from the control tag now that they were back in the regular world, and if so, did that mean he could still see and hear everything Naruto did? "Naruto-chan, do you need to take a break?" "No! I've definitely got it now." Naruto brushed off his hands and got back into stance. "At least one more try. I'm almost there." The sense of everything around him returned slowly, like a picture that gradually got clearer and clearer. He could feel the thread again. But this time, instead of trying to touch it, he reached alongside it. It went a long way before curving off, going through objects and living things as if they weren't there. Shifting his attention, Naruto extended his senses all around, excited to see how far they could go. It was as if each thing led to the next with almost no effort. He caught strange, discolored visions of everything his senses touched. His sight flowed with the movement of the world's energy. His senses were pulled into the current of some far-off irregularity, something that twisted the energy of the world around itself. Something huge. Immense. Completely incomprehensible in scale. The second Naruto caught sight of it, he almost lost the balance again, but he brought the energy back under control before the stick came flying at him again. What was that thing? Naruto honed his focus, a strange sort of fear creeping into him. This wasn't like the many times he'd feared for his life or the life of someone else. It was an almost detached sort of dread. He knew that thing, whatever it was as vast and uncaring as the sun or the ocean. "I recognize that energy. It's the Jubi!" The fox within him growled, fur bristling in response to the immense pressure Naruto felt. Naruto put off asking about that for the moment. He did his best to avoid getting distracted so he could look more. It was difficult in the hurricane of chaotic energy. He wouldn't be able to hold the mode much longer. A whiskered face flickered into his vision. His older self, he wasn't in his Kyuubi chakra or even sage mode. In fact, he didn't appear to be doing anything at all. He was staring up with a horrified look on his face. Confused, Naruto tried casting around so he could figure out what was wrong. He noticed his older self was holding on to someone. He hadn't seen them at first because they didn't have any life energy inside of them. They were dead. Limbs starting to tremble imperceptibly, Naruto struggled to focus on the person's face. This wasn't a dream, was it? "Niji, go out there and show them what a branch house member can do." "Of course." Despite his wavering control, for a moment, Naruto could see everything so clearly it was almost like being there. Someone was talking. He could hear them as easily as if he was sitting in the same spot as his older self and Niji. Those words. "I'll never let my comrades die. Now look around you, and say it again." Silence. But Naruto's older self looked slowly around, and the younger did the same. The battlefield was littered with bodies. Many of them were impaled with sharp roots, others were crushed. The feeling of death was everywhere. It felt like an awful dream. Everything grew confusing. The words being shouted out now mixed together with impressions and memories Naruto had tried to forget. All the threads of energy were twisting together around the mass of incalculable power nearby, making them hard to distinguish from one another. All of this is reality. Why must you cling to reality? Do you honestly think that's different from what I am trying to do? It was him. The voice sounded different, but Naruto was certain of it. Madara was trying to do the same thing he'd done before. Anger chased out the floundering confusion that clouded Naruto's vision. Don't listen to him. He tried to get to me, too. Naruto tried to shout at his older self, but it didn't work. He swiveled his sight around, tracing the gaze of his older self to locate the speaker. The massive thing he felt was there. Naruto quickly tried not to focus on it. The thing was a void that distorted everything when he looked at it. He dragged his gaze up further, where two figures stood atop the thing's back. There was a man wearing old-fashioned armor who looked like an Edo tensei. Weren't they all supposed to be gone? But he was standing a little further back. The one he was searching for was standing closer, and staring fiercely down at him, at his older self. It was him. He wasn't wearing the mask, but that face didn't look exactly the same. Half of it, the half with the Sharingan, looked squashed and wrinkled. The other eye held a Rinnegan. And the look he had, the hard, scathing look he had, was definitely not the same. But it was the same face. And the same energy. Obito! Naruto whispered out loud, voice wavering. What? The younger Obito's voice cut through his shock, and Naruto heard him plop down to the ground beside him. Naruto's eyes flew open, and his long-reaching senses dissolved. All of that death. The Jubi. The hopeless look on his older self's face. The Kyuubi was right. Naruto had met Obito long before now. But he didn't want him to be right. It wasn't fair. That Obito wasn't the same one beside him right now. It should not have been like this. What is it, Naruto-chan? You were doing well before it ran out, Fukasaku said. Why didn't you move once you got into Sage mode? Did you sense something? He paused. Is something wrong? What he's doing to the older me right now is exactly what he tried to do to me back in Suna. Naruto muttered, rubbing his temples. I recognize it. It's just like when he shoved Sasuke in my face. I already had it happen and got over it once, but the older me hasn't. And I don't want that to happen to Obito either. So I can't let this slow me down right now. That was right. He couldn't let this freak him out. Both of their older selves were in trouble right now. Above all, they had to get to the battlefield. They'd already been through too much together to let the circumstances between their older selves stop him. Idiot. And who do you think made it that way? We should be more worried about the Jubi. Forget the Uchiha brat and concentrate on getting back to our own time. True. Maybe that had been the whole point of imprisoning them together, but Naruto couldn't back down from what he knew. If Orochimaru wanted a show, they'd give him a show. Seriously, are you okay? What are you talking about? Did you get sunstroke or something? Obito asked skeptically. Senninji, can you take us to the battle right now? Naruto said urgently, turning toward the toad. You've seen that I can use Sage mode, right? I wouldn't say you've mastered it, Fukasaku said. You still look like a toad when you use it. But I suppose that's alright. Jiraiya-chan never fully mastered it either. You'll be able to do it when you're older, or maybe with a lot more practice. So then? Naruto jumped up excitedly. Fukasaku gave another and then a sigh. It's already dark, and you must be tired from today. Let's have dinner, get a good night's sleep, and then head out in the morning. I can come along then too. What? But we had a deal, Obito complained. Alright, Senninji, Naruto said, interrupting him. But is it okay if we stay out and train some more, as long as we agree not to stay up too late? Shimaba can send us a bento or something. Well, it couldn't hurt, as long as you stay away from the oil while I'm gone. Yeah, I know. Come on, Obito, Naruto said, pulling Obito, who continued voicing his complaints until they were well away. Hey, what gives? Are you going to wait around here without even putting up a fight? Obito said after he had been pulled to a grove with a small pond and little toad statues. No. We need to leave as soon as we can, but I get the feeling no one is gonna let us go if they find out what I saw a minute ago. Naruto kept his voice down and looked around for any listeners nearby. Have you figured out how to get back into that dimension yet? Maybe if we go there, we can come out of it somewhere else. I've tried, but I can't figure out how to do it. What is all this about? What did you see? You've been acting weird ever since you went in the mode. Naruto took a deep breath. I found out where your older self is. What? Obito turned to give him his full attention, eyes wide underneath the goggles. How do you know that? And where is he, me, whatever? The way Sage Mode works, I can sense all kinds of energy and people, even from far away. Naruto kept walking as he explained, putting more distance between them and the training ground, and Obito followed him. I felt this huge disturbance far off, so I tried using the mode to figure out what it was. I started seeing flashes of different people, and it wasn't really clear until the end, but I definitely saw the older you. His energy felt like yours, and I saw his face. But yes. So now we know I didn't die, Obito said, energetically pushing aside the oversized lilies they were trekking through. I knew it couldn't be true. I had this feeling. We can just go talk to him directly. But, where are we going? I wanted to go where no one could hear, Naruto said. He took a careful look around, then turned back to Obito. Listen, when I said Madara captured me and told me about his plans, I was mistaken. It wasn't really Madara, but someone pretending to be him. Huh. Okay. Obito looked taken aback by the grim urgency in Naruto's tone. I'm saying it was your older self. Naruto grabbed him by the shoulders. That's why no one knows what happened to you, because you started wearing a mask and calling yourself Madara. I don't know how, but your older self is the one behind this war. What are you doing, idiot brat? I told you, forget him. This is just another distraction, the QB growled, but Naruto ignored it. Maybe the fox had been right about Obito, but Naruto was fiercely against allowing things to stay on this track, whatever it was. He had a right to know. Obito stepped back, looking confused and slightly suspicious. What? I still think we have to go see him, but if Sen and Jishin or one of the others realizes, there's no way they'll let us go. I mean, since it's your older self, stop saying that, Obito demanded, teeth gritted. You've never pulled that move off before, right? Obviously you made a mistake. I'm telling you what I know so that maybe we can do something about it. Naruto was gearing up for a fight. The QB said he thought it was you too, but I didn't believe him until I saw it myself. And he and everyone else would want us to leave it alone, but I'm sick of listening to other people say what I can and can't do. So we're going to leave here and talk to him ourselves. It's fine if you don't believe me, because you can see for yourself once we get there. It doesn't make any sense, Obito said, anger fizzling out as quickly as it came. His posture visibly slumped. I hate war. Why would I want to start one? He looked disgusted, and with that expression, Naruto could see even more of a resemblance between the younger Obito and the older one. But that didn't make him waver. In fact, it made him understand even more. The older Obito also hated war. He'd even said as much. Naruto clapped a hand on Obito's shoulder. I've heard a lot of shocking things since coming to the future, including losing my master, and, even though my older self is okay, my best friend wants to destroy the village. Whatever's going on with your older self, I know that you right here now as a friend. It's not too late to do something about it when you get home. No matter what happened, you can change it. We'll figure it out. Naruto smiled. Right now, what you need to do is use your teleportation jutsu to take us to the battlefield. Your older self could do it, so I know you can too. But... Obito's voice faded out strangely. I don't know how to do it. I mean, especially to a place I've never been before? I don't even know how that would work. Naruto crossed his arms. If you can at least get us off this mountain, maybe we can figure out how to get there after. I should be able to find the place using Sage Mode. And maybe the older me will sense we're here too. Alright, Obito said quietly. His eyes flared red and he took another step back, face set into a look of concentration. But while knowing about his older self lent a sense of importance and urgency to the task of teleporting them to the battlefield, Obito couldn't figure out how to actually do it. He concentrated for what felt like hours. Obito tried all kinds of things, mentally picturing himself appearing in that dimension, trying to focus more chakra into his eyes, staring really hard into the air hoping to see a rift or something that would give him a clue. After they had been there a while, a small toad came by with a note from Shima and a couple of bento boxes for them. Obito wanted to seize the chance to take a break right then, but changed his mind when he saw the onigiri made of caterpillars. We don't need to eat anyway, remember? Naruto said impatiently, tossing the food out as soon as the toad left. Just hurry up and figure out how to teleport. Yeah, I'll just do that, no problem. Obito snarled. You know, I think this isn't going to work. Even if we get to that other dimension place, won't we just be stuck there again? Then you'll have to call the old toad again, and everyone will get on our case for trying to sneak off. And we still wouldn't have gotten anywhere. It doesn't hurt to try. It's too soon to talk about quitting. What were you thinking about when you did it the first time? I told you, I wasn't really thinking about anything. I was just trying to pull you away before Orochimaru could do that body control thing again. The ceiling was about to fall on us. I thought we were both going to die, and next thing I knew I was waking up in that other place. Naruto rubbed his chin as he thought back to that moment. He couldn't remember anything useful. But they had to do something. At this rate, they'd never get there. It made sense that Obito could activate the jutsu in a life-or-death situation, but it wasn't like they could replicate that here. Or could they? Naruto remembered the first time he managed to do a proper summoning. Jiraiya had told him to use the Kyuubi's chakra, but no matter how hard he tried, Naruto couldn't seem to call on it without the threat of danger. That was when Jiraiya decided to push him off a cliff, to force him into a threatening situation. It worked so well, he managed to summon Gamabunta. Okay, Naruto said suddenly. I think I know where we need to go. Huh? Obito looked over at him with a raised brow. Yeah. I was just thinking, maybe if we go to the right spot, you'll be able to concentrate better. There's a really high up place where me and Senninji went near the start of my training. He said it's a good spot for meditation. Maybe it'll help. Maybe. I guess it's worth a shot. Obito said without much enthusiasm. It's not that far from here. Come on. Naruto jumped away, and Obito followed after him. Naruto was already congratulating himself on his brilliant plan. The place was, as he'd said, not very far away. They were close to the highest point of the mountain, where cliff faces and breathtaking waterfalls overlooked the lush forests that carpeted Mount Myoboku. It really was a pretty place, with a canopy of stars above and the calls of thousands of toads below. It's over here, Naruto said, leading Obito to the very edge of one of the tallest cliffs, making a show of looking out over the landscape. Look, stand right here. Can't you feel the energy around this place? Not really. I don't see how this is any different, Obito said. Nevertheless, he activated his Sharingan and stood where Naruto was, settling into a stance with his feet apart and his hands in a ram's seal. Naruto backed away slowly behind him, trying not to scritch his sandals on the ground and tip Obito off to his movement. It's a nice view, Obito said after a second. At least if I'm going to be standing here doing nothing. Taking a running start, Naruto tackled Obito in mid-sentence. His momentum kept them moving forward, and they both tipped over the edge of the cliff. Gravity reversed itself and they plunged head down, rushing toward the distant spikes at the bottom of the mountain. The starry night sky stretched out endlessly below their feet. What are you doing? Obito screamed. He tried to struggle free, but Naruto held on tightly. This place wasn't slick like the gorge Jiraiya had pushed him over. There had to be no chance of Obito finding a place to cling to the side of the cliff. Teleport us to safety, Naruto shouted over the rushing wind. I know you can do it. Otherwise, we're going to get impaled about 100 times, and I don't want to find out if we can survive that. Are you insane? Obito's face was set in a grimace of terror. Naruto saw the tomo in his eyes shift and make room for more. He had 3 in each eye now. The ground was rapidly becoming more visible. Naruto really hoped Obito would figure it out. Their bodies were made of tough stuff, but this was the sort of fall it might be better to die from than survive. It almost felt like they were slowing down. The space around them stretched and bent slightly, like wrinkles in a backdrop made of paper. The scenery above and below grew paler, almost transparent. Through the thinning material of that place and moment, they could almost see something, someplace else. Then it was like they weren't anywhere at all. It still felt like they were falling, but up or down no longer had meaning. Obito grit his teeth, straining to make the other dimension come more fully into view, make it more solid. Naruto heard someone's voice. It echoed around them in brief snatches, like a broken radio without static. You haven't realized it. Someone was talking? Where? How? He couldn't place the voice. You've been trying to merge your past self with the current Naruto, hearing the old you in Naruto's words. What the hell? Obito wondered out loud, but his voice didn't travel. From his expression, Naruto could tell he could hear the voice, too. There were more words, but they emerged only to fade out before they could be heard. Sometimes they overlapped with one another in disconnected snatches. "All I can give you is death." The other person said something in response, but it was blotted out, muffled. The regular world suddenly became more visible around them. The ground was very close. "Obito!" Naruto's shout made it through. "I'm trying!" Obito squeezed his eyes shut and held his breath. The outside world blinked out. They landed on a hard, flat surface, but it was a very short fall. It felt like waking suddenly from vertigo. Naruto rolled over and immediately bumped into one of the many square columns that made up the other dimension. He looked around. Obito opened his eyes. They'd both managed to stay conscious this time. Naruto gave a victorious grin and a thumbs up. "Okay," Obito said. "I'm still really pissed you did that, but—" There was an explosion from some distance away, and they both jumped. Without having to discuss it, both Naruto and Obito got to their feet and peeked carefully over the edge of the column. It was far enough away not to be able to hear every clash or punch, but there were definitely other people here, and they were fighting. The huge explosion was caused by one combatant blocking a fireball hurled by the other one. "What is going on? How is there someone else here?" Naruto hissed, keeping his voice low even though there was very little chance the people would hear them. "We have to get closer." It was exciting, even if they didn't understand it. Finally, something was happening. Naruto and Obito crept around that column to another of the same height, gradually getting closer. The fight raged on, and the people didn't notice. Naruto stopped and gripped Obito's arm tightly when the entire area was illuminated by a brilliant blue light. It surrounded the body of one of the fighters, electrocuting him with the harsh shriek of lightning. "What?" "We need to get closer. Don't tell me you're chickening out?" Obito turned back to him, annoyed. "It's Kakashi-sensei." "Huh? Are you sure?" Obito craned his head over the column they were standing behind, and Naruto did the same. "Then who's the other?" The two bodies clashed against each other, and the boys stopped and stared, frozen in place. The question didn't have to be answered, because now it was completely obvious. The lightning-enhanced kunai illuminated the Uchiha crest on the back of the older Obito's coat, because it and Kakashi's hand had gone all the way through him. Meanwhile, Kakashi was stabbed through his side with a black rod. There was a horrifying second when everything was still, caught in the macabre image, but then the kunai dropped slowly out of Kakashi's hand and clattered to the ground. The older Obito's body heaved, and he coughed up blood. They shoved away from each other. Kakashi sank to his knees and pulled the rod out of his side. "It's over, Obito." The younger Obito stared with his mouth slightly open, watching everything play out in front of him, uncomprehending. He watched his older self sit up and half laugh, half cough. He looked up and gave a smile that made the younger shiver. "You can have this battle. But I'm not giving up the war." The air crinkled again, converging in a spiral around the older Obito's single Sharingan. Within a few seconds, he had completely disappeared. The younger's hands on the edge of the column were gripping so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He grit his teeth and pulled himself up, vaulting over the column. Naruto tried to catch him by his coat, but missed. Obito jumped down and started walking toward the battle site, all his limbs shaking. Kakashi was still slumped on his knees, breathing labored. But he looked up when Obito jumped down to the blocks on that level. Mismatched eyes widening, Kakashi stood and stumbled backward. But his surprise only lasted for a second. Regaining his footing, Kakashi's expression changed to a glare. He held up a shaking hand, and it burst with sharp blue energy. "I told you, I'm not interested in your illusions," he said. Chapter 37 Bruise. Nothing could have convinced Obito as much as seeing the truth himself. That didn't mean it was easy to accept. He stopped walking to stare at Kakashi, recklessly, knowing he was close enough to be in range of that lightning jutsu. He was too angry to be afraid. "How could you have let this happen?" Obito shouted, fists clenched. "Why couldn't you stop me? You were always able to beat me before. Why not now?" "Enough!" Kakashi said harshly. He took a step back and looked around, ready to defend himself from any side. "I told you that won't work. If you still want to fight, come out and we can finish this." Obito growled and jumped at Kakashi, rearing back for a punch. Not expecting an attack to come from the illusion, Kakashi whirled around and threw out a kick that landed squarely in the middle of Obito's chest. Obito went crashing to the ground and rolled a couple of times before jumping back up, Sharingan blazing underneath the goggles. Kakashi's brow furrowed, and he hesitated. Did you transform yourself? He wondered out loud. He got back into a fighting stance. Naruto climbed over the column, cursing under his breath. He jumped from one block to another, and reached the bottom in time to see Kakashi and Obito clash, sending the young Uchiha flying. Why were they fighting? When Obito got back to his feet, Kakashi came toward him with a set, grim look Naruto didn't like at all. It was like he had resigned himself to the worst. This was too much like what had happened when Naruto had met the older Sasuke. Things were not going like that this time. Stop it! Naruto jumped down onto the platform. Kakashi-sensei, stop! This will probably be pretty weird to you, but it's not what, Naruto? Kakashi paused again, confused. What is? Naruto walked until he was standing in between the two of them. Remembering himself, Obito deactivated the Sharingan, but he kept scowling. Kakashi glanced at Obito, then at Naruto again, suspicion lingering in his eyes even now. He looked uneasily at the empty space around him. Why are you bothering to hide like this now? It won't do you any good to pretend. Damn it, we're real! Listen. Naruto made to approach Kakashi, but he jumped back the moment Naruto made a move toward him. When he landed, it jolted his wounds and he winced, holding his side and sinking down to his knees. The front of his vest was slashed deep enough that blood seeped through. Kakashi-sensei! Naruto ran over to him, watching in case Kakashi decided to fight him, too. He'd never seen his normally unflappable mentor so shaken before. Are you okay? Just take it easy. Look, it's me, Naruto from the past, right? I know, everyone thought I was sent back, and I was, but Orochimaru brought me into this time again. This Obito here, he's like me. Orochimaru brought him to the future, too. He's not that, the guy you just fought. Kakashi looked up at him, slightly out of breath and obviously in pain. He glanced at Obito standing there as before, then pulled the headband down over his Sharingan eye. Naruto suddenly realized he never questioned why his sensei had it before. Kakashi unfolded from his defensive crouch and sat back on the ground. Seeing that the situation had diffused a bit, Obito came closer, looking equal parts wary and concerned. What happened? Kakashi asked wearily. He didn't meet Obito's gaze, instead, he looked carefully up at Naruto. That's what we want to know! We've been all out of the loop. But... Naruto exercised restraint for once and answered Kakashi's question first. He wanted to make sure Kakashi understood that they weren't a trick or genjutsu. It's kind of a long story, but the important part is we escaped from Orochimaru by accidentally coming to this place, and we've already found out about what happens to Obito in the future. And that's why we've got to find another way of getting back. Right? Naruto turned to Obito. Right. Kakashi glanced at Obito and then away again before his gaze eventually returned. It was like he had to adjust to looking at something that was too bright. If Orochimaru is the one behind it, it makes sense. Kakashi finally said. He understands the forces behind the war. To think he'd use that jutsu again, we aren't the only ones. Naruto said quickly. He brought in a kid version of Kabuto, too. He's still back there, and who knows how many others Orochimaru is gonna try to drag out. We have to get him to undo the jutsu completely if we want to send everyone back. That's easier said than done. Kakashi sighed and closed his eyes for a moment. All right. The first thing we need to do is get you two out of here. I don't know where we're going to keep you at this point, but it isn't safe for you to stay in this dimension. Wait a minute. Obito stepped forward, gesturing. You're wrong if you think we're just going to go hide somewhere. We went through a hell of a time just to make it this far. And I want to talk the older me. If you tell me what happened, maybe I can stop him. Or I can find out something useful. Then, when I go back home, I can make it so none of this happens in the first place. Kakashi looked away again, hesitating. Kakashi. He still didn't answer right away. He looked pained, distant. What reason was there to hold back? Maybe Obito's appearance here was too sudden, or were his wounds making it hard to concentrate? Naruto put a hand on Obito's shoulder when the latter made an impatient sound. I know. Kakashi started slowly. It's strange, even after all these years, I know just what you're thinking. It was always so straightforward with you. If you can find out what happened, you can change it, and then everything will be perfect. Is that it? Are you doubting me? Do you want me to end up as someone who does stuff like that to my own teammates? He indicated the deep, ugly slashes across Kakashi's chest. What else am I supposed to do after finding something like that out? You have to tell me what happened. And where's Rin in all of this, anyway? It isn't doubt. That's the problem. What happened in the past could repeat again if you knew. I don't want you to turn out the same way. The problem is, I can't seem to think of a way to say it that won't end with the same result. What do you mean? It'll turn out the same if you don't tell me, right? I'm telling you right here and now I won't let that happen, Obito said, frustrated. No one knows what consequences might come from changing the past. But it's hard to imagine this situation getting any worse, Kakashi mused. He stared out in front of him a while longer. The boys waited. They glanced aside at each other. They had to convince Kakashi to say something. If Obito's older self came back, there would be no time to listen to stories. Obito shifted like he was about to say something, but then Kakashi started talking. I guess first, I just want to say I'm sorry. For how I used to act when we were kids, and for being unable to stop this current situation. To say I carry some of the blame would be an understatement. Kakashi-sensei. Naruto started, but Obito cut him off with a wave of his hand. He was watching and listening intently. Kakashi tilted the faceplate of his headband before letting his hand drop again. You've probably figured it out by now, but this used to be your eye. I suppose the quickest way to start would be with that incident. He shifted position, sitting cross-legged on the ground. Naruto and Obito followed suit. Our mission was to destroy the Canopy Bridge to cut off Awagakure's forces, Kakashi began. It was supposed to be out of the way of the main fighting, and not too dangerous. If it happens the same way in your timeline, it'll be shortly after I make Jounin. That's how you'll know. But that simple mission ended up going wrong. On the way, Rin was captured by some IWA Nin. You wanted to save her right away, but as the acting captain at the time, I said no. I thought we should complete the mission above all else. What? Obito clenched his fists. You were so determined to go on your own, we split ways there. Before you left, you said something to me I never forgot. I think it's important for you to hear it, especially if you're able to make it back and this never happens. You said, in the shinobi world, those who break the rules are considered trash. But those who abandon their comrades are even lower than that. Naruto looked up quickly. That's the same thing you told us when we did the test to become genin. Obito frowned at him, then turned back to Kakashi. Something I said, you were right. Eventually I realized it, and I went back to help you. I was able to get there in time, but I lost my eye trying to defend you from one of the people who had captured Rin. Everything happened pretty quickly after that. We were able to get her out, but a rock started to fall in my blind spot as we were leaving, and you pushed me out of the way. It fell on you. Half your body was crushed, and we couldn't do anything to get you out. Kakashi was talking into complete stillness now, as Obito and Naruto sat there, transfixed. We had to leave, or else we would end up buried underneath rocks too. But you understood. You wanted us to get out. You had Rin transplant your eye to replace the one I lost. And then we left. Everyone thought you had died then. Kakashi paused, wincing and favoring his impaled side. His breath grew short for a few seconds. I mean, but I didn't though, obviously. Obito looked pale. Can't you give me more to go on? Like, when exactly does this happen? How many enemies were there? Where was Sensei? On his own, doing another part of the mission. Kakashi said, voice shallow. You'll have to make do with that, because there's more that comes after. We're leaving here in a few minutes, whether you're done listening or not. So this has to be a little more rushed than either of us would like. I can't say it any more gently. Naruto wanted to ask if Kakashi was alright, or how they were going to leave here, but he took one look at Obito's stricken expression and kept silent. I can't say exactly what happened to you after that, because I don't know. Kakashi continued. I know at some point you decided to reject reality, and start working toward creating a dream world where everyone could have their own idealized life. It couldn't have happened overnight though. The real catalyst didn't come until later. He paused. I let Rin die. This time when Obito tried to punch Kakashi in the face, it actually connected. Kakashi fell to one side, bracing his hands against the floor. Then he slowly sat back up, looking at Obito steadily with his one uncovered eye. Obito got to his feet. Naruto jumped up and put his arms under Obito's to hold him back. Obito! Stop it, okay? If you want to see him beat up, I think the older you already took care of that. This made Obito stop moving. He sat back down, arms crossed and posture rigid. What do you mean you let Rin die? What, did you leave her alone in some other situation, since I wasn't there to make you change your mind? No, Kakashi said quietly, feeling of his cheek. She was captured by Kirigakure, but I went to find her as soon as possible. By the time I was able to get her out, they had forced her into being the Sanbai's Jinchuriki. Rin realized it when they were chasing us home. They were chasing us to make us get there faster, so they could unleash the three tails on Konoha. Once Rin figured that out, she wanted to avoid going back at any cost. I tried to eliminate all the ones chasing us, but, while I was fighting, Rin suddenly jumped in front of my attack. It was on purpose. She wanted to make sure the Sanbai could not be used by them anymore. Obito was bent forward, hands on his knees gripping cloth tightly. He bit his lower lip. Obito. Naruto started. The story was hard enough just to hear, and it had all happened before he was even born. He couldn't believe there was so much he hadn't known about his own sensei. That hasn't happened in your world. And it won't, because now you know. Kakashi gave a long, nearly silent sigh. Unfortunately, that isn't good enough. What do you mean? Obito asked roughly. I may not have the right to say this, and I don't know if you'll even listen. But you should, because I heard this directly from your older self. Obito, you didn't start the war because you were mad at me for failing to protect Rin. It's the harshness of reality itself you're rebelling against. Imagining everything will be perfect if you can stop this one particular event, that isn't very different from wanting to hide in a world where you can't be hurt. Your older self would never accept such an uncertain solution, which means somewhere deep down, it won't be good enough for you either. Even if you succeed, it doesn't mean nothing bad will ever happen to you. He looked at Naruto. I've seen enough of our world to know that bad, senseless things happen to people who don't deserve it. People hurt one another. It's why I've continued to get stronger, in order to protect what I can. Kakashi smiled in his strange way, where it was possible to tell even though most of his face was covered up. Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. That was the same thing he'd said to Kakashi, right after arriving in the future the first time. He'd forgotten. And he understood what Kakashi meant. Ever since he vowed to change the past, he knew things might not always go right. There was even a chance stopping one thing would make something worse happen. There was no way to tell. But we have to try, as long as we can. Naruto said, looking back at Obito. You don't give up when things don't go your way, right? I mean, that's just the impression I got ever since we met. I could be wrong, though. Obito scowled at the jab. If I can save Rin, I'll be able to face whatever else happens. You can count on that. I hope that's true. Kakashi looked up and around, scanning the area again. There's one last thing we need to figure out before leaving. But if the older Obito comes back, we're leaving regardless. About this jutsu of Orochimaru's. Do either of you know how he actually performs it? If we had even the seals used, that would be a start. Naruto shrugged. Itachi said Orochimaru probably can't use it as much as the Edo Tensei, because it was harder. But we'll probably have to capture him before we can undo it, right? I'm not sure. Kakashi paused. Like the Edo Tensei, it takes your soul from another world and attaches it to a host body in this one. The difference is the other time and place probably do not exist until you get taken from it. That's the diverging point. Obito raised an eyebrow, and Naruto tilted his head, arms crossed. Where you come from is different from somewhere like the pure world. It's probably another dimension. Otherwise, your older selves would be able to remember all this. Kakashi explained. That would automatically make it trickier than the Edo Tensei. Wait. Obito interjected, leaning forward. This is supposed to be some other dimension too, isn't it? Does that mean I can teleport myself home if I wanted to? I don't know. Both my Kamui and your older selves go to this dimension. It doesn't seem possible for us to go anywhere else. Never say never, but we can't rely on that to get you home. Physical travel between here and there would be even more difficult than what Orochimaru has done. I can't imagine what kind of power that would take. That sparked something in Naruto's memory. That's what the older Obito said. I'd bet he knows if it's possible or not. I mean, if we can make it to here, why not? Except, if we leave now, Orochimaru might be able to find us again. With that control tag of his, I don't think he's put one on me yet. Obito interrupted, pointing a thumb at his forehead. I mean, I don't remember that happening, and we never heard him gloating about it. And he could have stopped me from dragging you out of there, right? So if we can get him to undo the jutsu, you'll be home free. Naruto chimed in excitedly. Yeah, but what about you? Time out. Kakashi interrupted. What control tag? Naruto rubbed the back of his neck. It's something Orochimaru put on me when we fought in Suna. It's similar to the way he controls the Edo Tensei summons. According to him, he can use it to see what I see and hear what I hear. But if I can make it back home, even for a moment, maybe I could tell them what's causing it. At least until we get that snake bastard cornered. I see. Kakashi narrowed his eye. Naruto could sense his barely concealed anger. We need to decide what to do now. I don't know what's happened on the outside since we landed here. They might need my help, and I'm not leaving you two alone. Good, then take us with you. Obito said. I still need to talk to the older me. I might be able to figure out how to get home. That's not a good idea. I don't think he will care you're the same person. He'll destroy anything in order to achieve his goals. And I don't want Naruto to get too close to the enemy. Kakashi thought for a few seconds. But I don't have enough chakra to make more than one trip. Kakashi-sensei, you need a medic, Naruto said firmly. Besides, you don't want to leave the battle yet, do you? Take us with you. We'll be alright. Alright. But I'm only saying that because leaving you here would be worse. I'll land away from the fighting. Naruto, when we get there, I want you to call the toads and have them take you to their mountain. Naruto was about to say if he wanted to go back to the mountain, he would just call them here, but Obito's shoulder passed him aggressively. Whatever, let's go. I don't want you keeling over and getting us stuck here. Kakashi seemed to know his warnings had little effect. He side-eyed Obito as he stood between the two, a good bit taller than either of them, and rested a hand on each of their shoulders. It was dark where they landed. The moon was high up in the sky, and nothing else could be seen in the immediate area. Naruto heard the sound of water, like the ocean or a choppy lake nearby. Kakashi leaned forward, winded. He was still holding on to them, for support this time. Where are we? Naruto wondered aloud, holding him steady. Wherever they were, it was nice to see the night sky and breathe fresh air again. The other dimension was useful, but it was creepy. We're a good distance away from the front. Kakashi breaded. He was about to say more, but he stopped suddenly and let go of them. He crouched and pulled out something wedged in the rock, something that glittered against the inky black backdrop. What is it? Obito craned his head to look. Naruto did the same. It was an unusual-looking kunai. It had 3 sharp prongs, and a heavy wooden handle with some kind of seal painted on it. All 3 of them felt it at the same time. An incredible amount of energy charged the air, making the hairs on the back of their necks stand on end with static electricity. It's charging up a Bijudama. That idiot probably plans to send it over here, the Kyuubi said. Bijudama? Naruto wondered aloud. We're going to die if we stay here. Tell them now. The Kyuubi says we'll die if we stay here. Naruto blurted out in a panic. I see. Kakashi stood, still looking at the kunai in his hand. There's probably no point in running, so go back to the Kamui dimension. What? Naruto was extremely confused. What about you? Obito demanded. I don't have enough chakra to go again. You were able to get Naruto and yourself there to begin with, so you should be able to do that much. Maybe it was the confusion, or the intense, oppressive energy charging the air, but Naruto started to feel lightheaded. He felt strangely disconnected from the scene, as if he was suddenly watching it from far away. You think we're just going to leave you here? Obito shouted. He grabbed Naruto by the arm and then Kakashi, pulling them all close together. Don't apologize for being a jerk and then ask me to leave you behind somewhere, idiot Kakashi. The space around them twisted into a spiral, and it didn't even take long this time. Their landing inside the Kamui dimension was not graceful. They all reeled from the momentum, lost their sense of gravity for a moment, and nearly fell down. Naruto stumbled into a column, dizzy, but no longer feeling the strange disembodiment from a moment ago. What the hell just happened, Kyuubi? The Jubi was about to release a massive attack. It wasn't aimed for us, but with that kunai there, I knew we had to leave to be completely sure. If you say so. Do you still think Orochimaru can't see us in this dimension? I can't sense him here. But the moment we leave, his connection is still there. It is infuriating. I don't care what you say, we need to go back. Look, as long as we can come here, they can't touch us, Obito said. I think you're forgetting someone very significant, who can come here just as easily as you. Hey, Obito, Naruto interrupted. Did you get a weird feeling right before we left that rock? I was kind of freaking out. Is that what you mean? No, it was kind of like, almost like floating away, or falling asleep, only not. Obito frowned. Maybe. I don't think so, though. It could have just been the realization I was about to die. I'll get used to that at this rate. Naruto scratched his cheek, stumped. That sensation was familiar, and it couldn't really be mistaken for something else. It felt like the connection to his plant-clone body had loosened for just a second. But for it to happen at exactly that moment was odd. The only cause he could think of was the Bijudama. But why? Was it because it could kill them, beyond a doubt? Listen, Naruto said slowly, scrubbing his hands through hair like he often did when he was trying to think. It was just a gut feeling he had, but there was something to it. There had to be. There's something about the Biju's energy. It's one of the only things that can hurt us, right? I don't think Orochimaru wants us to get killed. He doesn't want me fall into the enemy's hands either. Bringing us here wasn't easy to do, and it's not like he wants to let the world end by me getting captured. Obito and Kakashi looked at him as that sank in. That might be true. Kakashi's brow furrowed. But it still isn't a good idea for you two to join in at the front. Too many things could go wrong. And even if Orochimaru did unsummon you to save you from danger, he could bring you right back. You'd be trapped again. Yeah, I know. But Obito would be back home, at least. I doubt Orochimaru could find him again without a tag. If I had to, I could escape again. I mean, Naruto added quickly at the look on Kakashi's face. I'm just saying, it's better to be in danger out there than in here, 'cause Orochimaru can't see anything going on in here. That's all. Kakashi kept looking at him, giving his patented stare. Hey, I get it. You could be right. I'm sure Obito will take us back to the fight anyway, regardless of what I say. But Naruto, keep in mind this world could end if you fall into the wrong hands. Orochimaru aside, getting to safety should be your number one priority. There was another meaning under his words. I know what you're thinking. Don't do anything rash. Naruto swallowed. Even he wasn't completely sure he was right, but making certainties out of uncertainties was his specialty, wasn't it? Okay, he said. Obito, we might get separated after this, so I need you to completely and absolutely promise that you'll set things right when you go back home. Don't turn into an evil jerk either, or I will find a way to kick your ass. As if you could? Who do you think you're talking to? Obito tilted his goggles. I have the Sharingan and an awesome new jutsu already, so I'll be able to protect everyone. I promise you that. Good. Can you stand, old man Kakashi? Obito said. Kakashi's visible eye widened slightly in surprise when his former teammate ducked under his arm to hoist him up. Naruto grinned and linked arms on Obito's other side as he got ready to transport them all. Chapter 38-9. They landed in an entirely different scene from before. It wasn't as dark here, but barren dirt and torn rock was all they had for a landscape. But that didn't make it boring to look at. The huge red barrier and the monstrous creature within it took care of that. Naruto stared at it, mouth gaped slightly open. This was the first time he was able to actually see the Jubi, since it had never been clear when he used Sage Mode. There were people all around it, too, but they were hard to notice with something like that in the middle. They were so tiny in comparison at this distance they looked like fleas jumping around. Yes! I was able to get us closer! Obito pumped his fist. What? Kakashi slumped to the ground. Even though Obito had taken care of transporting them this time, the fighting and the previous jumps were taking their toll. Closer was not what you should have been aiming for, Obito! Go find your older self. He should be where that big ugly thing is, the Jubi, Naruto said. Most likely on top of its head. We can deal with things here. But don't let him kill you. I've got a plan for getting us back, so you might not have a lot of time. Obito stared at him for a moment, frowning. He looked at Kakashi, and then turned around. Hey! You be careful, too! And if anything happens, well... He held out his hand. Naruto shook it, ignoring the prickling in his eyes. It sucks we weren't born in the same generation. We could have really kicked ass as a team. But I'll beat Kakashi to Jounin instructor in my time. Obito turned to walk away. No, stop, Kakashi tried to stand, but his legs shook badly when he shifted his weight to them. Naruto caught him as he tipped to one side, then eased him back to the ground. Just rest right now, okay? You and the others need to make sure you save this world. We'll worry about getting back to ours. What are you going to do? Naruto didn't answer. He took a few steps away from Kakashi and looked up at the Jubi looming ahead. There really wasn't a lot of time. Someone on this battlefield was bound to notice them sooner or later, and then the chance might be lost. And while he needed Obito to leave so he wouldn't hear what Naruto was going to say, it would be bad if he reached his older self too quickly. Naruto, tell me what you're planning. Don't do anything reckless on your own. Naruto looked back at Kakashi and took a few more steps away, just to make sure he was out of reach. He planted his feet firmly into the ground, and looked up. Orochimaru! I don't know what you're doing at a time like this, but you better stop and listen up! He shouted at the sky, fists bared. Right now, Obito is heading right toward the middle of danger. I don't know if you care enough about him to save him yourself, but you're going to care in just a few seconds. What are you doing? Are you even sure he can hear you? Kakashi demanded. Naruto continued. If you don't send us all back, me and Obito and Kabuto, and anyone else we don't know about, in the next 30 seconds I'll undo the seal holding back the Kyuubi. Good luck trying to control it with that tag of yours. And we'll be right here in the open where the enemy can see us. Naruto! But, Naruto said louder, if you cooperate and send us back, not only will this world not end, but you'll get to keep your tag on me when you send me home. That's really what you want, isn't it? To see what I'll do when I go back? Naruto felt a burning sensation starting in his seal. It was the same feeling as before, when Orochimaru had started taking control over his body. He stumbled a bit and laughed aloud. It was working. The snake could definitely hear him. That won't work. I can at least go against you long enough to tear off the seal. It'll only take a second. Inside the seal, Naruto and the Kyuubi were standing eye to gigantic red eye. The fox stared at Naruto through the bars as he hovered in front of the seal. Fingertips slipped underneath the edge of the paper. You don't have the key. The Kyuubi rumbled, eyes narrowing. The only way is to force my energy through and break it, and your mind has to be entirely willing for that to work. It is, Naruto said. His older self had told him what would happen when he pulled off that seal. Even if the Kyuubi came close to being entirely released, it would be alright. His dad would save him. Naruto closed his eyes, knuckles tightening around the edge of the paper. Naruto! The voice came from the outside world, but it wasn't Kakashi's voice this time. Naruto opened his eyes and felt someone's hands on his shoulders. He looked up to see an Edo Tensei face, with blue eyes against black, and cracked features pulled into a look of concern. Naruto, can you hear me? Too? The moment his concentration wavered, Naruto got hit with the controlling sensation again, even more aggressively this time. He cried out, stumbling, limbs shaking with the effort of resisting. It would all be over if Orochimaru managed to get a hold on him. He was barely aware of it when Minato caught and lowered him to the ground. He started inspecting the seal, yellow brows knotted with worry. Kakashi, do you know what's happening? Kakashi's eye went wide at the sight of Minato in front of him, but he was able to answer readily enough. Orochimaru has placed a control tag on this Naruto. This jutsu of his that summons past versions of living people is like the Edo Tensei. He can manipulate and control whoever he summons. I've heard something about it, Minato said. Orochimaru brought us here too. But he's off somewhere else now. He's able to see and hear through Naruto. That's what he was doing, taking advantage of that by trying to provoke Orochimaru into releasing the jutsu. Minato paused, hands hovering over the seal. If this jutsu is like the Edo Tensei, we need to seal Naruto's soul in a way Orochimaru can't ever reach it again, but still leaves him back where he belongs. No, Naruto croaked out with effort. He reached up to clutch the white cloth of his father's coat. If you do that, I won't be able to save Obito. Orochimaru will just let him die. Obito? Minato looked at Kakashi, confused. He brought Obito from the past, too. Right now, that Obito is trying to go where his older self is. Minato still looked confused, and a bit concerned. Naruto pulled on his coat, willing him to understand what he was trying to do, but finding it difficult to get his thoughts out. Orochimaru would lose Obito now if he died or got sent back either way. He can't get him back without an anchor. Naruto explained, voice straining. So Obito's useless to him now, but I'm not. That connection has to stay, because it's the only way he'll listen to me. I don't mind it. Saving Obito is more important than saving me, because doing that will save you, too, and the me in his world, and a whole lot of other people. Minato looked down at him, thinking, face set in a slight frown. But his posture relaxed after a few seconds. I can't remove the tag itself, since it's attached to your soul, if it's like the Edo Tensei summons. But if you don't want your soul to be sealed away from Orochimaru's reach, I might at least be able to block him from controlling your body. Minato lifted a hand, and it started to glow. Naruto's eyes tracked the movement warily as he applied the hand to his seal. Itachi tried doing that with Genjutsu, but it only worked once. And it didn't help much. This will last longer. But it won't get rid of the tag completely. I don't know if it will last forever either. Naruto's face scrunched at the slight tickling that came from Minato manipulating the seal. He could tell it was working. It gradually became easier to think, easier to move. He sat up slowly and flexed his hands, looking down as he clenched them into fists. Okay. Naruto got to his feet, clumsily at first, then standing steady. Now that he can't control me, he can't stop me. What are you planning to do? Naruto closed his eyes briefly, and took a deep breath. Does the tag still work? Can he still see what we're doing? I think so. Minato knows what he's talking about. This wasn't going to be easy. Naruto had lost the element of surprise. Orochimaru knew what he was up to now. Hopefully, it wasn't too late to pull it off anyway. Naruto turned as his father stood up behind him, and Kakashi looked up from a little further back. I'll find a way that won't mess with the seal. Don't worry, he told them, resting a hand on his chest. No matter what, whether this works or not, you won't be seeing this version of me again. But you still have the older me. Worry more about him, and focus on stopping the world from ending. I've reached the end of what I can do here in the future. Now all I can really do is save the past in my own way. Biting his lip, he turned to face Minato. Look after Kakashi-sensei and Obito and the older me. We'll have the chance to talk again, but the older me might not. So, what he wanted to say was coming out more awkward and less heroic than he wanted, so Naruto simply turned around and started walking away, leaving them there. I'm proud of you, Minato said softly. Sensei the Jubi, Kakashi said. Something about the energy in the air had shifted. A series of attacks exploded in the distance. The Jubi was thrashing around wildly inside the barrier. My main body is at the barrier. Something is about to happen. We need to reach whoever is controlling the Jubi right away. Minato took out one of his specialized kunai. Will you be alright here? Yes. I just need to recover some chakra. My other son should be able to take care of that, if he ever makes it over here. Minato smiled back over his shoulder at him, and then disappeared. Obito ran as fast as he could toward the huge creature everyone was fighting, eyes fixated on its head, as if he had any hope of seeing his older self at this distance. The closer he got, it became more clear that reaching it wouldn't be easy. The massive barrier was just the first step. Obito wanted to stay out of sight of everyone on both sides of the war. He didn't have time for questions, and whether they happened to recognize him or not, Obito doubted anyone would let him go near the fight. Jumping and ducking around as skillfully as he could, Obito pressed his back against a shard of rock and looked up at the barrier. He was close to it now, but the distance between it and the Jubi was greater than he originally thought. Obito? An old, astonished-sounding voice said. Obito flinched and looked around wildly. He'd already been discovered? By who? He saw an old man dressed in battle gear sitting in front of the barrier, hands held in a seal. But he was currently staring at Obito with wide eyes. Obito recognized him, too. Sandaime-sama? He ducked back behind the rock. Whatever you're thinking, it's not what you think. Wait. He peeked back out. I thought you were, dead in this timeline. Killed by Orochimaru. And I was brought back by him, too. How do you know Naruto? Don't tell me, you're one of the ones brought here from the past? You know about that? Obito asked cautiously. Just a bit. What are you doing here? It's dangerous. I have to see my older self. Obito came out from behind the rock. It didn't seem like the Sandaime could move from the position he was in. You're holding up this barrier, right? Can you let me through? I'm one of the ones. And absolutely not. There's a beast in there strong enough to take on the entire allied shinobi force at once, not to mention the man behind this war. I know! Obito shouted. That man is the older me, and if I don't face him now, I'll probably never get the chance. So you gotta let me through. Please! Hiruzen looked surprised, and then grim. I'm sorry. I understand why you would want to see him, but whatever circumstances there might be, it's just too dangerous. Obito scowled and turned to look through the barrier. There were people on the other side, rushing toward the Jubi. It looked like they were still able to use their jutsu in there. Of course. He already had a feel for landing where he wanted using the Kamui. And this time, he could even see the place he wanted to go to. So if he focused really hard, he should be able to make a pinpoint landing. I understand. You're just doing your job. But I have to go, Obito said. He activated his Sharingan and stared at the Jubi, trying to find a hint of familiar energy on top of it. There. Obito took a deep breath, focused hard on where he wanted to go, and stepped forward. The space around him twisted and bent at his command. Obito. The Sandame's voice was cut off as Obito slipped into the other dimension. But this time, he didn't bother to materialize there all the way. He passed through it, concentrating on his destination, and came through to the other side as easily as stepping through a doorway. Despite how serious things were, he felt elated. This ability was becoming more and more natural to him. A loud, wailing screech met him on the other side. The Jubi was thrashing and crying out. Obito's mouth fell open. His older self was right in front of him, but his appearance had changed dramatically. His whole body was taut with struggle, half of it was in something pitch black. His hands were locked in a seal, and his hair was starting to turn white. What's going on? Obito demanded, eyes wide with horror. What are you doing? Stop. Not knowing what else to do, he put his hands on those of his older self and tried to pry them apart. Only then did his older self seem to take any notice of him at all. His right eye was covered up by the black stuff, but the left one drifted downward to look at him, narrowing. It was a terrifying eye, purple with rings radiating out from the center. Against his will, the younger Obito froze with fear as they stared at one another. This person was so far out of his reach, it didn't seem possible they could have the same soul. That look didn't have shock, confusion, or anything else remotely human in it. It was cold. All his older self saw was someone trying to interfere. Arms suddenly wrapped around him from behind, lifting Obito up and pulling him away from his older self. At the same time, a bright, glowing orange form with black flames radiating from it appeared where he had been. Obito cried out in shock when he saw a stream of blood burst out from a slash across his older self's chest. Then he blinked, and he was suddenly back on the ground again. Obito stumbled in his haste to turn around, ready to fight. Only. His mentor stood in front of him, smiling. Minato-sensei. Long time no see. Minato paused and rubbed the back of his head. Well, I suppose that only applies on my side, doesn't it? You're a zombie! Obito cried, noticing Minato's eyes and the cracks on his face. Don't worry, I'm not under anyone's control, Minato said. He walked up to Obito and placed a hand on his shoulder. The skin underneath burned for just a second before the feeling faded away. Obito pulled his collar to one side to see a familiar sequence of squiggly lines against his skin. Hey, what was that for? Proof, Minato said. I don't know if that mark will stay with you when you go back. But if it does, it might come in handy. For both of us. Besides, Naruto asked me to look after you. Obito's hand dropped. He looked down, face burning with shame. Sensei, everything going on here. It's all my fault. No, Minato said gently. I must take part of the blame, too. If I had reached there in time, everything might have been different. But do you know, until just a minute ago, I didn't even know your older self was still alive in this time. Huh? Obito looked up at him. That? Obito blinked when his sensei suddenly disappeared with a small sound, leaving behind a drifting plume of smoke. A bunshin? This is something unusual, though I wouldn't say I enjoyed the timing. You're not just a chakra construct. How did you get here, boy? The voice came from a man sitting casually on a rock behind where Minato's bunshin had been standing a moment ago. He had a massive amount of spiky, black hair, and Obito took a step back and leveled his Sharingan at the stranger. This man had the same kind of eye his older self had. The land sloped downward as Naruto walked closer and closer to the battlefront. Even at this distance, the wreckage from the fight was all too apparent. As he climbed over rocks, making his way through littered bodies and broken earth, he wondered again if this was the best way. After all, Orochimaru could just as easily decide to abandon him, and then all would be lost. That was doubly likely now that the first chance was ruined. But he didn't think that would happen. What made this truly difficult was seeing the destruction this fight was causing. Naruto kept thinking back to everything he'd seen and done in the future. Had it been enough? Would he be able to make any difference on the outcome if he made it back to the past? Or was it like Kakashi had said, and bad things would happen no matter what anyone did? Still, there was no other option, short of running away from reality. No matter what happened, he would never give in to that. There was no doubt that eventually, the Obito from his time would try to convince him to. He was ready for that. Kyuubi, we're almost there. Will you help me? Yes. The older Naruto had been distracted by his younger self's presence ever since the latter arrived on the battlefield. It eased his mind a bit when he sensed Minato's Bunshin join him and Kakashi, but for some reason he left, leaving Naruto's younger self wandering alone along the edge of the destruction. For the dozenth time, he reached his senses out, trying to figure out where the younger him was going. Was this real? Why was he here? Should he send a Bunshin to learn what was going on? Hey, Gaki. Let me take control for a minute, Kurama said, chin rested in one paw unconcernedly. What for? Naruto asked, slightly suspicious. The last time the fox asked that out of nowhere, he ended up throwing Kakashi straight into the enemy's attack. It had all worked out for the best, but still. Just do it. I've been talking with the me from the other time. He and the little you have a plan. Really? What kind of plan? And what the hell are they even doing here? I thought we sent them back. Hurry up and do it, alright? I'll explain later. Naruto grumbled, but he did as he was asked and relinquished control over to the fox. With the switch, his eyes changed, and the dark lines on his face from the Kyuubi chakra mode grew thicker and wilder. Kurama pulled Naruto's face into a wide, sharp-toothed grin. Sorry about this, kid. He instantly turned and started running away from the battlefront, bright flames trailing behind from his speed. A few people called out, but Kurama ignored them. They could make do with Naruto's Bunshin for a few minutes. What are you doing? Naruto yelled. We need to go back. Tuchan and Sasuke might need our help. Just shut up and watch. Trust me. The younger Naruto was waiting for them among the churned-up ground behind everything, where almost no one was. He looked up, watching as Kurama jumped the last bit of distance, and landed down in front of him. Hey there, little brat. You'd better thank me for taking all this trouble. Your older self's a pain in the ass, Kurama said. He took hold of Naruto's forearms with either hand, and Naruto held on to his arms in return. Yeah, thanks. Naruto grinned. Chakra flames licked over the younger Naruto's skin, pulled up his arms as if by some invisible, magnetic force. It wasn't even necessary to adjust the energy to transfer it over. And it didn't take very long. The younger Naruto winced and hissed, suddenly tightening his grip. His arms were starting to transform. Tough ridges formed on the surface of his skin and moved downward, lengthening his fingers. Budding branches started sprouting. Soon, it will be enough to start a chain reaction no one can stop, Kurama said, smiling viciously. Naruto grimaced in pain, but he kept his eyes steadily locked with the fox's. He heard his older self's voice. Kurama, stop! What the hell are you doing? It'll kill them if this keeps up. I know. Any second now, this form will become unbalanced and start absorbing everything it can, including the energy inside of it, and they will die. Kurama stared directly into the younger Naruto's eyes. He's got a lot of nerve, coming up with something like this, But there's no need to worry about whether it's a bluff or not. You should know that I'm not soft like a human, Orochimaru. Even if the kid tells me to let up at this point, I won't. And I'm not going to. Naruto growled, flinching when the energy worked its way across his shoulders. It felt like he was being burned alive. So unless you want everything you've done so far to be ruined. Naruto stopped and his eyes widened when he suddenly heard familiar laughter inside of his head. It echoed quietly, and then more loudly, sounding delighted. The transformation Naruto's body was undergoing in response to the energy was agonizing. The cells hardened while also multiplying rapidly. He couldn't move his legs anymore, because they were quite literally rooted into the ground. It was hard not to panic with that laughter echoing in his head. Did he guess wrong? The Kyuubi in the form of his older self let go and stepped back as the branches tried to dig their sharp ends into him. The transformation was beyond anyone's control now. Naruto squinted. He could tell the Kyuubi had let his older self back in charge, since there was nothing he could do to stop the process anymore. The look of horror on his face made it obvious. This whole attempt was another failure. But at least the consequence was only on himself. There was still a chance to save Obito and Kabuto. If the people of this time were able to win the war, they could track Orochimaru down afterward. Win, Naruto said faintly. And protect Obito. His older self's confused expression was the last thing he saw before closing his eyes and relaxing. It had been a long shot, trying to outwit someone so much older, smarter, and stronger than him. But he'd done his best. The pain gradually faded. Naruto found himself awash in a soft, pleasant light. Realizing he was no longer stuck to the ground, he opened his eyes. The only thing around was blank whiteness, and Naruto tried to shake his head, but it didn't work. The guy from before was there, the one he hadn't been able to recognize. Am I dead? Naruto blurted out. No, he said. That was a close one, though. Then what is this place? The deepest part of your soul. A place you can only reach whenever you exist without a body. Everything you carry around with you lives here. Don't worry. You should be pulled back toward your natural body soon. Wait. Naruto called as he felt himself start to fall. Who are you? But everything quickly disappeared, and he didn't get the answer. Obito's entire body was tensed, ready to fight, but the shinobi sitting on the rock didn't even shift from his casual pose. He watched Obito like he was some mildly interesting object. Even if your body is just an imitation, your chakra is exactly the same as it was back then. How is that possible? Do I know you? Obito asked rudely. All that time together, and you don't remember me? Well, I suppose you wouldn't. Not if you're exactly what you look like. Whatever. I'm not in the mood for a guessing game right now. I need to go check back up with Naruto. Obito turned around. Oh? Obito started walking. You have both of your eyes. So what? Obito said irritably, but he didn't stop walking. You probably don't even know how much power that gives you. A pair of eyes always work better together, after all. Obito did stop this time. What do you mean? By any chance, have you ever heard of the Canopy Bridge? Obito whirled around, glaring at the man. He was sitting there the same as before, smirking and leaning on one hand. I spent a lot of time near there, some years back. It could be very boring at times, that is, until an interesting child showed up. He was missing an eye and half of his body was crushed beyond recognition, but he still had enough power left to find me. I don't believe things like that are mere coincidence. Some meetings are fated. Obito felt chills run along his spine. The man stood with a sigh. Again? I'm getting tired of this. Obito turned back around and saw a small crowd of people running toward them, but it was really just 2 people, multiplied several times. He'd seen their pictures before, at the academy. Shodai-sama? Naidame-sama? He wondered out loud. A bright explosion off in the distance caught his eye. Something was happening with the Jubi. Forgetting the odd group, Obito started running toward it to see what was going on. At the same time, a strange feeling came over him. It wasn't like a moment ago, when he was just creeped out. It was more like the time he and Naruto had gotten stuck between dimensions. The entire landscape around him was fading out. Obito stopped and looked at his hands. Color was rapidly leaving them. His vision changed. Everything looked far away all of a sudden. He felt himself standing on the ground, but he could also feel himself floating up and away. It was exactly how Naruto had described it. Obito looked up one last time, tracking his older self's energy far away. Everything he'd seen and heard since coming here came back to him at once, and he had to bite down on his lower lip to stop the tears that threatened to rise. No one determined his fate except for him. I'll show you, he growled defiantly as he faded away. Naruto let in a long, slow breath, trying to calm the rapidly beating heart he could once again feel in his chest. He dug his fingers into the sheets and pulled his hands into loose, shaky fists. He was almost afraid to open his eyes and look around. After all the failures and near misses, it didn't seem like it could be real. Even if it was, not everything had gone perfectly. Orochimaru's seal wasn't destroyed, just contained. But letting something be in it for the snake was the only hope he had for getting home and saving Obito in the process. He hoped Orochimaru had heeded his demands about sending Kabuto back, too. Not knowing for sure whether he'd succeeded or not weighed heavily on his chest. You did the best you could, Gaki. Naruto's lips curled into a smile and he let out a silent snort, fogging up the breathing mask on his face. So. Kurama, huh? What? The Kyuubi snapped. Nah, any. That's what he called you, right? I heard him. Humph. What's your point? Naruto's amusement dropped off quickly when he heard a door slide open. He opened one eye just a tiny bit before closing it again. Instance of increased heart rate. It could be just another random hiccup, but it was as big a spike as the last time he woke up. We need to watch him closely, to be ready in case that happens again. It was Tsunade. Naruto heard her heels clack on the linoleum as she walked around to the side of his bed, stopping there to fiddle with the machine giving out steady beeps. He slowly opened his eyes to look up at her. Everything looked so clear. It had to be real, right? Naruto felt a knot forming in his throat. He lifted his hand slowly. It looked even thinner than it had the last time. But it was his. He reached out, touching the rough fabric of Tsunade's haori. Tsunade-sama! The nurse that had followed her in gasped. Tsunade looked down at him, amber eyes widening. Hey Bachan! Naruto said with a rusty voice, giving her his best grin. Chapter 39 Found. Kabuto faithfully kept his post at the entrance to Orochimaru's base, even after Sasuke and his group arrived. Orochimaru had told Kabuto there was going to be a big experiment today that might cause a lot of noise, and to make sure no one but Sasuke was told where to find him. Sure enough, the boy eventually heard loud crashes coming from the other side of the base, and it had taken a lot of restraint not to go see what it was. Things had been quiet for a very long time. No one came to tell him what to do now, and he never saw anyone leave. After standing there for hours cluelessly, Kabuto finally decided to start walking that way to see what was going on. But now, taking a look around only made him more worried and confused. The base was empty. All the Edo Tensei guards had disintegrated. Naruto and Obito, Orochimaru, Sasuke, all of them were gone. Where? Where did they all go? After searching so long that his legs started to ache, Kabuto sank down in one of the hallways. He didn't mind treating gross, terrible wounds, and he didn't flinch at sights that could make even adults feel sick. But this, being all alone like this, was unbearable. Then, something unusual happened. Kabuto's vision grew hazy and white, even though he still wore his glasses. His entire body felt strange. Like it was suddenly heavy, or like he was above it but still inside it at the same time. He clutched his chest and gasped as the panic threatened to suffocate him. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't breathe. This went on several long, frightening seconds more, and then it simply stopped. Kabuto sat trembling with his hands and forehead pressed against the wall. What in the world was that? Was it really over? He slowly opened his eyes and turned around. Everything looked exactly the same as it did before. The only sound was that of his own breathing. He stood up and started walking down the hall again. Orochimaru-sama? Kabuto called tentatively. He looked around every corner and down every hall as he walked by, but there was no answer. He finally found the experiment room, the source of all the noise from earlier. And no wonder. The place was in shambles. I don't understand it. Kabuto looked around at the room below, with its cracked floor and piles of mortar and stone. One of the walls looked like it had been blasted through. I don't understand it. Why? Where did everyone go? Naruto. Obito. Tears beaded up in the corners of his eyes and fell out before he had the chance to wipe them away. Kabuto took off his glasses and scrubbed at his eyes with a sleeve. This wouldn't do. If Orochimaru-sama saw him crying, he might decide to send him back to the orphanage. As much as he missed home, he could not mess up this opportunity. Still, he thought, for just a small moment, that he might be able to have friends here. Why was this happening? Naruto was back. For several seconds, the only thing that broke the silence was the quiet, regular beeping of the machine. Tsunade stared at him unguardedly, mouth slightly open in silent surprise, and Naruto smiled wider to try reassuring her he was all right. And Naruto, she finally said, voice wavering. She pulled him into a surprisingly gentle hug, carefully avoiding pulling on any of the things hooked to his body. Sorry for worrying you, Bachan, Naruto said as casually as he could, though his voice was still weak. I just had to take a really long nap. Tsunade gave an exasperated sigh as she pulled back, her usual manner quickly coming back. Stop trying to act so cool. Can you leave us for a moment? She looked up at the nurse. Please pass this on to Shizen. She knows what to do. Yes, ma'am, the nurse said, nodding her head and then leaving. Naruto tried to sit up, but Tsunade put a hand on his shoulder to keep him still. He looked up at her nervously. I'm not in trouble, am I? Are you really back this time? Or are you going to disappear again? Tsunade asked. If you know, tell me right now. Yeah. Naruto closed his eyes. Are we? Are we really back for good, Kurama? I think so. Orochimaru shouldn't be able to exert any control over us, as long as the Yondaime seal is in effect. But he might be able to see and hear everything we do after a while, if not already. Don't forget that. Never let your guard down. Naruto opened his eyes slowly. He'd had the chance to get rid of Orochimaru's influence for good, thanks to his dad's knowledge of seals. But he declined it, hoping to bargain with Orochimaru to send Obito and Kabuto back to their own times. Naruto didn't even know for sure whether Orochimaru had done it, since he disappeared before being able to see. And he probably never know, since those versions of Kabuto and Obito didn't exist here. Which is exactly why you're a complete idiot. Can you really trust the word of that snake? Naruto ignored Kurama. Yeah, I'm back for real, he said to Tsunade, trying to inject confidence into his smile. Is Konoha in any immediate danger? Was it? Everything about the war wasn't supposed to happen for another few years, right? Probably not. Then we can forget about anything else until I assess your condition, Tsunade said. She took a clipboard from the foot of his bed and started marking things down from the monitors and machines. I'm hungry, Naruto complained as a wave of hunger hit him suddenly. He clutched his stomach and rolled over on his side. I could eat 30 bowls of ramen. He hadn't felt hungry in ages, but now the sensation was back with a vengeance. No solid food for a while, Tsunade said as she continued her work. You're lucky. We were going to have to resort to more permanent measures to keep your body going soon. It probably should have been done sooner, but we hoped you would be able to wake back up. Something in the way she said it made Naruto forget his hunger for a second. He kept underestimating how much they must have worried about him, because he had been so busy learning things and fighting for his life in the future. What about Ero Sennin? What happened after I woke up that time? He rolled back over quickly. He came back here as soon as we told him what happened. That was not the first time we realized we were on the wrong track. Then Jiraiya was okay. He was alive. Naruto was so relieved that his eyes started to sting. Tsunade looked down at his stricken face and sighed. You can see him in the morning if you want. It's late right now. While I'm sure he wouldn't mind being dragged out of bed for this, you should have a few hours to readjust before seeing anyone, at least. So you're not. Naruto's voice came out croaky. You're not going to ask me what happened? Tsunade leaned over the bed's rail and rested a glowing palm against his forehead. She stayed silently like that for several seconds. Her touch felt warm, and made him a little bit sleepy. Naruto gave her a questioning look when she stopped. For a while, we thought Akatsuki had taken the Kyuubi, Tsunade said. But if that had happened, there was no way you should have been able to wake up. Even if you are known for defying expectations. She ruffled his hair a bit before pulling her hand back. Are you saying you do know what happened? Yeah. Naruto swallowed. He knew there was no way he could pretend not to know, not if he wanted to change things. But there was so much to tell, he almost didn't know where to begin. I never really learned all the technical stuff behind it, but it wasn't Akatsuki. It was Orochimaru. Only it's not the Orochimaru you guys know. This already felt difficult to explain. How was he supposed to do this? What do you mean, not the Orochimaru we know? Tsunade frowned. He's from another time, another dimension thing? It was a place just like here, only it was like everything was happening years from now. There was an older version of me there, and you, everyone. The Orochimaru from that place summoned me and put my soul in some kind of fake body. I kept trying to get back, but it was really, really hard. Tsunade hummed. Naruto didn't like the doubt in her tone, but he could think of no better way to explain it, not without going into every last detail from the start. I found out a lot of stuff about what's going to happen in the future, he insisted, gesturing the best he could with his weak noodle arms. I swear I'm not making it up. Tsunade continued her work quietly for another minute, making Naruto nervous and frustrated. What would he do if no one believed him? They had a war to prevent. If no one listened, then how was he supposed to do it? They said that it was like that jutsu that brings back dead people. The Edo what's it? Naruto burst out, trying again. The Edo Tensei? Yeah, Naruto said, reaching to point at her eagerly, but pulling the 4 tape to his hand in the process. Oh. Yeah, that thing. And he and Kabuto are gonna use the Edo Tensei to summon a ton of dead people, too, the Uchiha clan, and it's all because of Uchiha Madara. See, he started a war with everyone. Tsunade frowned and put the clipboard in her hands back in its tray at the foot of Naruto's bed. Madara? Yeah. I learned some stuff about him, and a bunch of other things too. I can tell you all about them if you don't believe me. It isn't that I don't believe you, Naruto. Tsunade gave a sigh and pulled a chair up next to his bed. Start at the beginning. But stick to the basics, just so I can have a better idea of what you're talking about. What happened the night after the inauguration? Naruto rested his head back on the pillow, trying to remember. It felt like such a long time ago. Naruto started talking, and Tsunade didn't interrupt him unless he went off on a tangent, or tried explaining something too complicated. When that happened, she would ask about what had happened next, and he would drop the current topic and move on. He tried to go off track often, because he was so determined to convince her he was telling the truth. Tsunade's relative silence was unnerving. She seemed less interested in the details of Madara's plot and the war, and more interested in the time-spanning incarnation jutsu and Orochimaru's activities. But eventually, Naruto grew tired. He started yawning every other sentence, and his words were turning into mumbles. It felt like he hadn't explained but a fraction of everything that happened, but thanks to Tsunade's promptings, he was already close to the end. So how did you make it home, if Orochimaru captured you after the second time you came back? I escaped, obviously, Naruto said, a touch of his old bravado coming out, despite how tired he sounded. I was able to summon the Toad Senninji and make it out. Then I was on the battlefield where everyone was facing off against Madara. Then I met my dad. He said Orochimaru had brought him back with the Edo Tensei. Naruto fell silent for a moment and looked over at her. Tsunade had a look of deep concentration on her face. Her hands clenched the arm of the chair tightly. She didn't say anything though, so Naruto continued. My oldest self told me about him before. He was able to alter the seals so Orochimaru wouldn't have control over me anymore. That should not have been possible, Tsunade said, her grip on the chair relaxing. Minato sealed himself using the Shiki Fujin. It was the same move the Sandaime used to seal Orochimaru's arms and his jutsu. And I know he succeeded, because Orochimaru came to me himself to see about healing him. As far as I know, there should not be any way he could summon anyone, much less Minato. I don't know anything about that, but he was there. And obviously Orochimaru could do it, cause he summoned me more than once, right? What gives, Bachan? You said you believed me. Tsunade rubbed her forehead with one hand, giving a low grumble that showed the internal debate she was having. Finally sighing, she leaned forward and rested her hand on the bed's rail. Naruto, I believe you when you say that you experienced these things. Or at least, you are telling the truth about what you think you saw. But if what you said is true, future time or not, it sounds like this time-spanning incarnation jutsu really crosses dimensions, since you said your older self had no memory of it. Naruto was caught off guard by this. Yeah, that's what they said too. So what? Assuming that's all true, how can you be sure the place you went follows the same path as here? But Naruto gripped the sheets covering him. He could just say that it was a gut feeling, but where was the proof? We can't rely on that totally, or close our minds to other possibilities. We need to look out for anything you might have found out, but don't ahead of yourself. It's dangerous to blindly assume everything will be the same. That goes doubly when you consider who's behind it all. But I spent so much time trying to get back home to warn everyone. I promised them I would, and I know it's really the future. I can feel it. Don't stress yourself out over it. You need to rest and get your strength back. Tsunade stood. For now, we'll keep this to ourselves. I'll let Kakashi and Jiraiya know, but don't tell anyone else until we have the chance to investigate further. Sure. Naruto huffed. He wasn't going to give up on this. There were still years until the war started. I know you said I should wait till tomorrow, but can I see Ero-sennin now? Tsunade looked over at a clock hanging on the wall. I need to talk to him anyway. I suppose I could ask him to come over here, if it will help you relax. After Tsunade left, Naruto's brow furrowed, eyes fixed on the ceiling. He was feeling drowsier and drowsier, no matter how much he fought it. He needed to get better as soon as possible, become strong again, and go out training with Jiraiya. Once they were out traveling together, Naruto was certain he could convince him that everything was true. After all, he'd left a lot out while telling it, and not just because Tsunade was focused on getting the basics. He wasn't sure what to do about Obito, Itachi, Nagato, and Konan. The Obito from this time probably wouldn't want his help, and the other three had said not to worry about them. Still, Naruto didn't want to talk about them just yet, if it meant they would be put down before he had the chance to do it himself. So far, he had pinned the entire war on Orochimaru and Uchiha Madara, leaving any mention of Obito out. Just until he could figure out what to do. Why did this have to be so hard? Naruto wished he had the help of his older self, but he did at least have Kurama on his side. More or less. The Third Shinobi World War was still raging on, and at this point, no one knew for certain what the outcome was going to be. Not even Konoha's Yellow Flash. It was just a routine mission near the border of the Lightning Country, far from the front lines, but Minato got an apprehensive feeling when two of his students arrived at the rendezvous point without the third. The longer they waited, the greater the tension in the air became. He'll probably come a few hours late with some excuse about a stray cat. Kakashi shrugged with his palms up. But you know, he's usually serious when it comes to completing missions, right? Rin said. I wonder if he... Don't worry, Rin. Minato stood from a crouch and folded up the map he had been studying. This area should be safe from enemies. It could be he is having a hard time finding the meeting place. If that idiot didn't accidentally cross the border, Kakashi said, they might see that Uchiha crest on his jacket and take him without realizing he doesn't even have the Sharingan. I'll go take a look really quick. The two of you stay here. I'll be back before dark. Minato took out one of his specialized kunai and threw it down in the middle of the clearing. Why yes, sensei, Rin said. Kakashi just crossed his arms and leaned against a tree as Minato left. It's bad enough he has to be late all the time. At this rate, he's going to make the rest of the team look bad too, Kakashi said. Aren't you worried at all? I mean, no. Minato-sensei said he'd be back by dark, so we should still get home within the allotted time. Oh. Rin sat down under a tree with her arms wrapped around her legs. That wasn't what she meant. They waited mostly in silence as the sun worked its way across the sky. Minato didn't return until much later. It was well into dusk, and the darkness had already settled in the forested area where the two waited. Sensei! Rin trotted up to him when he reappeared. She stopped and fell silent though, when it became obvious he was alone. Minato held up a simple gray backpack. Obito's bag. He tossed it down. It was next to a river near the checkpoint, where he dropped off the scrolls. The people there said he came by as assigned, but they don't know what happened to him after he left. That's all you could find? Kakashi said as he walked up beside Rin. Yes. I can guess Obito stopped at the river for a break after completing his assignment, but there's no hint of where he went after that. He might have seen something, and rushed off over the water to avoid leaving tracks. At any rate, there were no signs of a fight there or anywhere else in the area. The checkpoint hasn't seen any of Kumo or Iwa's forces today either. Then, he might still show up here, just really late, Rin said, forcing a smile. Nah, Kakashi? If he's not hurt and there are no enemies, then he has no reason to be so late. Kakashi crossed his arms grumpily. That may be. But we've completed our mission ahead of time, so we can afford to wait a bit longer, Minato said, moving to sit at the base of a tree. Rin and Kakashi exchanged looks. They understood what that meant. Extra time or not, they couldn't wait forever. They had only carried supplies for the few days they were supposed to be on the mission. And with the war going on, they couldn't get away with any extended detours. Naruto had fallen asleep. Noticing the morning light in the room when he opened his eyes, he swore aloud. Nice to see you again too, Gaki. Naruto quickly looked over to see Jiraiya grinning at him. Ero-sennin. Whoa, easy there, Jiraiya said as Naruto dived forward to the best of his ability, trying to hug him. The railing made it awkward, and Naruto couldn't fully reach without tugging on his fore, but he halfway managed it. Tsunade will let me have it if you hurt yourself now. Just sit back and relax. Naruto let himself be pushed back gently, reclining on the soft pillows that somebody must have recently fluffed for him. He didn't want to relax. Jiraiya was really here. And there were so many things to talk about and do. When are we gonna go train? Naruto asked immediately. Sheesh. Jiraiya gave a heavy sigh and sat back in his chair, arms crossed. It's good to know spending months in a coma hasn't dampened your enthusiasm. Months? Hey, just how long has it been exactly? A little over 3 months. Jiraiya said with uncharacteristic seriousness. Honestly, it's a miracle you didn't die. It was lucky you had Tsunade's help, and the residual energy from the Kyuubi. We thought Akatsuki had managed to capture it somehow. But when you woke those 2 times, we knew something else had to be going on. I heard everything about it from Tsunade. I can't believe Orochimaru figured out how to do something like this. Naruto leaned back, looking at Jiraiya warily. So you think I'm telling the truth? I don't think you're lying, if that's what you mean. You aren't really the type to make up stuff for no reason. Besides, it's definitely true something serious happened to you. You almost died, Naruto. Jiraiya's voice took on a tone Naruto had never heard in it before. Then what are you going to do? Naruto muttered. Jiraiya uncrossed his arms and hummed. There's no doubt something strange and dangerous happened here. But I think there are bound to be some parts you couldn't know or understand, even if you got everything else right. What to do? First of all, we want to track down Orochimaru and find out if he's developing the jutsu you told Tsunade about. If we can catch him in the act, we stand a better chance of finding out right away how it works, and how to stop it from happening again. Naruto sat up quickly. I never thought of that. He'd been so preoccupied worrying about Sasuke and Akatsuki, he'd forgotten that Orochimaru from this time might be just as dangerous as the one in the future. What if he was already developing the time-spanning incarnation jutsu right now? Did that mean Naruto would someday meet another, younger version of himself? The very idea made his brain hurt. So there is that, Jiraiya said. If we find out he's doing something like that, then we might be able to get more information about the jutsu itself. If not, at least we'll have some proof to support your story. Naruto pouted. He still couldn't tell if Jiraiya really believed him or not. Then, what am I supposed to do? You need to focus on getting out of the hospital, first of all. Jiraiya waggled his finger. Don't tell me you expect to get out in a day. Naruto grumbled and leaned back. At least they were taking some kind of action on what he said. Maybe they would find something on Orochimaru, and get things moving the right way sooner. If it hadn't been for him, a lot of the bad that happened wouldn't be so. Naruto's eyes widened. Sasuke is? He sat up even more violently than before, nearly launching himself out of bed. Hey! Calm down. Jiraiya pushed him back by the shoulders once again. Do you want them to put restraints on you? I wouldn't put it past Tsunade. But Sasuke, did he leave the village? Did he go after Orochimaru? Jiraiya looked troubled, and though he let go after pushing Naruto back, he looked ready to do it again if Naruto didn't keep still. He answered in a gruff voice. So you know about that too, huh? Naruto stared, his heart starting to thump quicker. Having gone for so long without a normal body, it felt strange. He could hear his own pulse in his ears. What happened? Well, maybe it's not the best thing to talk about right now. I never got to face him. Naruto looked at his hands clenched in his lap. I was supposed to face him and show him I'll do whatever it takes to bring him back, even if I couldn't win that time. And now he... Jiraiya hummed sympathetically. The truth is, we don't know a lot about it. He got a good head start on us. No one has seen him since the day after you were put in the hospital. There was a report about a group of Otonin in the area, and we believe there was a fight involving them not far outside of the village. It seems most likely that they came here for Sasuke. Judging by the extensive damage we found, Sasuke either got captured and tried to escape, or he left with them willingly and changed his mind afterward. Naruto looked up. Sasuke fought them? He had no idea what might have happened, and that was not good. It was too soon for everything he knew to be messed up. It wasn't fair. Whatever the case, Sasuke probably still wanted to kill Itachi, right? If only he hadn't left, Naruto could have explained everything to him. Whether or not Sasuke wanted to listen, he would come up with a way to make him listen. I'll take care of Sasuke, Naruto finally said. If you guys can find Orochimaru, that will be good, then I can just go right to him. You make it sound that easy. Jiraiya scoffed. By the way, the old toad said you were pretty set against me investigating Akatsuki. Maybe they really did get to you, after all. It's nothing like that. Naruto huffed. It's just. How could he tell him? What if Jiraiya found out about Nagato and Konan and decided to go see them right away? Or what if Tsunade decided to attack AIM to get rid of them before they became a threat? Naruto had no idea how either of them would react. I just don't want you to go when there's no reason for you to. It's like I told Bachan, Madara is the one who started the war in the future. He's using Akatsuki for his plan. Some of them don't need to be. Some of them aren't bad guys. Even though they're after me, I don't really want them to get killed. Naruto felt kind of silly saying that, imagining how it probably looked from someone else's point of view. I mean, if there's a way to stop them without killing them. Their leader is in AIM, so that's why I didn't want you to go there. You or anyone. It's really dangerous. Their leader? You mean Madara again, right? No. I don't know where Madara is. Naruto waved his hands. But the one I'm talking about, he's unbelievably strong, and Madara is using him. I don't want that person to hurt anyone, or be hurt by anyone. If it comes down to it, I know the best way to beat him, so there's no reason for anyone to risk going there to find information. So, don't let anybody go there until we can figure out another way to stop them. Jiraiya raised a skeptical brow, then sighed. For now, it's good enough to look into what Orochimaru is doing. If there's a way to find out how accurate your knowledge might be, it's worth doing before anything else. He pushed his chair back from the bed and stood up. Are you leaving? Naruto asked, a little upset. What's with the face? Do you know how many times I came to visit you while you were taking a nap? Naruto looked down again. Right. It was like that when they trained before, too. He wasn't a little kid, after all. Why you're right. I was just joking. I was gonna call someone to bring me some food soon, anyway. I need to hurry up and get my strength back as soon as possible. Jiraiya watched him dubiously for several seconds, then sighed again. Come to think of it, I haven't had any lunch either. How about I try to sneak in something a little better than hospital food for us? The way Naruto's face lit up at the suggestion made it completely worth it. Chapter 40, Ghost. When Minato took them back to the village without the last member of their team, it was a tense moment for everyone. Kakashi seemed almost too eager to leave Obito behind so they would make it back by the scheduled time. Rin was clearly reluctant to leave, and moved slowly when it was time to pack up and move on. Minato was torn between his duty as a sensei and as a team leader, and hid one of his markers high in a tree before they left. He silently decided to take the other two home as quickly as possible and return alone at his next opportunity. Uchiha Obito was declared missing in action a few days after he failed to meet up with his team during the mission near the border of the Lightning Country. Days became weeks, and his name was called aloud at the periodic service with the others who had died or went missing in the line of duty during that time. But like all those whose statuses were unclear, Obito didn't get his name engraved on the memorial stone. He truly did disappear without a trace. The war was still going on, of course, so his team continued on their missions without knowing if he was alive or dead. They didn't talk about it much. It was a sticky topic between Kakashi and Rin especially. The decision to leave without finding Obito didn't sit as well on Kakashi's consciousness as he expected, but he didn't say so out loud. Rin inwardly berated herself for not insisting that they stay and look longer, but again, she kept that to herself. Still, every time they went on a mission, they kept watch for any sign that might lead to where Obito had gone. Whether it was a casual inquiry by Minato to a jounin who had been through that area recently, or Rin and Kakashi discreetly looking around every time they went somewhere new, relevant or not. All of them felt the silent, persistent weight of Obito's absence. They were in limbo, not knowing whether to grieve or hope. How long was this awful uncertainty supposed to last? Obito heard the sound of running water, and it immediately called to attention how parched his mouth and throat were. He pried his eyes open and looked around without moving his head. He was laying on a futon inside a small, plain room, with a sliding door on his left and an opening to his right that looked like a kitchen area. He didn't recognize this place at all. Obito blinked when he saw movement from the kitchen. An old woman came from behind the partition and paused when she saw he was awake. His memory came back quickly. He'd been on the battlefield just a second ago, with Naruto and the Jubi, and Kakashi was grown up, and his sensei was. Who are you? Where is this? Obito sat up and crawled backward as the woman came into the room. The pain that shot through his body when he moved made him cry aloud. Now lay still and calm yourself. My, I am surprised you managed to finally wake up. She knelt down beside his bed and put one hand on his head, and another one over his heart. Obito saw and felt the medical chakra given off by her hands. Who are you, O Bacon? He asked again after a few seconds. She sat back and put her hands in her lap. My name is Fumi. We are in a little country village in the Lightning Country. You were discovered floating down a river by some shinobi from Kumogakure. They thought you must be from the Uchiha clan, judging by your clothing, so they brought you back to Kumo to make use of you. Fortunately for you, you never woke up, and it was discovered after some investigation that you are just a little chunin without the Sharingan. They sent you here hoping I could bring you back to consciousness. They intend to do whatever necessary, activate your Sharingan and take it after you wake up. Then, he was back in his own time? Obito scooted back again and tried to stand and run, but there was another sharp pain below his ribs, and it was almost enough to put him under again. Stooped over, his hand went to his side and felt the bandages that were wrapped around. What? Fumi walked around him and gently took hold of his arms, moving him back to the floor. Please sit down. It's almost completely healed, and you don't want to make it worse, do you? What happened to me? Obito leaned back reluctantly, grimacing. Burns. Those charming people at torture and interrogation tried to wake you with a hot iron. Repeatedly. They did what? Rage clouding his voice, Obito moved again, but the pain reminded him to stay still. It was good you did not wake. Things would have been much worse for you then. But Bacon, if you were put in charge of healing me, then... Fumi looked into his face, then stood up. Don't worry, child. I have no intention of handing you over to them. Huh! Obito watched her go back into the kitchen, his confusion growing. If they were in the Lightning Country, then the people here were loyal to Kumogakure, right? They had no reason to want to help someone from Konoha. After several minutes, Fumi came back holding a tray with a bowl of thin soup and some tea. My grandson was about your age when he went out to war. Her small hands took things off the tray one at a time. Ma, well, I may be the best healer in the country, but I am no shinobi. I am tired of the wars taking children. Here. You can sit up, but be mindful of your wounds. Obito did as she asked and sat up slowly, favoring his right side. The soup was completely bland, but he drank all of it down, feeling his stomach awaken after just a little bit. There. With an appetite like that, I'd say you have a great chance of recovering. You can have some more in a bit, but not too much at one time. Thank you. Obito put the bowl back down on the tray. But if you don't turn me in, and they find out, won't you be in trouble? Aren't you sweet? Fumi chuckled. Don't you worry about me. You might have caused some fuss to begin with, but I think they've given up on you. I heard they considered making a ransom request when you wouldn't wake up, but they abandoned that idea after learning you were no one important in the Uchiha clan. Alerting Konoha would cause more trouble than it's worth. They probably expected you to die quietly here. Well, I did too. She laughed again, and Obito's face turned hot. Even if it ended up saving his life, it still pissed him off a little. If I have to, I can just tell them you ran off while my back was turned. They won't arrest a poor old woman for that. If you say so, Obito said doubtfully. Then, when do you think I'll be able to go home? Wait, how long have I been here already? It had been hard to mark the passage of time when he was trapped in Orochimaru's hideout all those days. Oh, you've been here for a week now. I'm not precisely sure when they found you, though. A couple of weeks, maybe? The only thing I'm sure of is they must have found you very soon after you fell unconscious. The state you were in, you could not have survived long without medical attention. Obito frowned. Naruto had explained to him that they left their real bodies behind when they went to the future. He was lucky to be alive, but this was bad. He had to get home as soon as possible. The older Kakashi said everything would start happening right after he became a jounin, but neglected to mention exactly when that would be. I need to get back before that happens, Obito mumbled. It's nothing, he said, waving his hands quickly. But I need to go home soon. My team probably thinks I'm dead by now. Even worse, was it possible his disappearance now might change something? He really hoped not. Things were going to be tough enough as it was, but as long as he could save Rin, it would all be okay. You're right. Well, I'd like to keep you until your burn heals completely, at least. Don't want it getting infected. Fumi stood heavily and picked up the tray to take it in the kitchen. Obito lay back again. He tried to calculate how long it would take for him to reach home, but the lightning country was large. It could be anything from a few days to over a week to travel back to Konoha. He made a mental note to ask Fumi where they were when she came back in the room. It would probably save time in the long run if he waited until he was healed, but it was so hard to think about waiting around here when anything could be happening back home. No. He would leave in a few days, max, regardless of what Fumi said. He couldn't risk the shinobi from Kumo coming back to check on him. Obito grit his teeth as Fumi applied salve to the many burns tattooing his side. He hadn't been looking forward to the moment when his bandages would need to be changed, and now his apprehension was being completely justified. It was a lot worse than this before, Fumi said matter-of-factly when Obito let out a hiss in response to her touch. Be grateful you were unconscious for all that. Yeah, no kidding, ugh. Obito tensed up involuntarily at a particularly sore spot, right in the middle of the largest burn, but that part was quickly over. Fumi went on to cover it in bandages again, using smooth, expert motions. When that was done, she turned aside to put away her supplies. But then the mortar in Fumi's hand slipped out of her grasp, making a loud crash when it cracked against the stone floor. She and Obito both cried out when they felt a cold, piercing energy slice through the air. Obito was able to recognize it for what it was, a killing intent of terrifying strength. They saw a bright flash of movement, and Fumi was pushed against the wall with her hands wrenched behind her back. Obito jumped down from the counter, his mouth gaped open. Minato-sensei! Stop! Narrowed blue eyes turned toward him, before Minato's harsh expression changed to one of confused shock. Obito? Minato took a quick, sweeping look over the entire room, then let Fumi go. I suddenly felt one of my Horatian seals. I thought someone had taken one of my kunai to lure me out here. One of your seals. Obito craned his neck around to look over behind his shoulder. He turned to show Minato the seal stamped there, plain as day. What? Minato came over to look at it, confusion even more evident in his face now. I don't remember doing that, but there's no mistaking it. Obito said, rubbing the back of his head awkwardly. Anyway, this is Fumio Bacon, she saved me. She was going to let me go soon to try to find my way back. Is that so? Minato turned back to the woman, taking on the same sheepish pose as Obito. I'm very sorry. Thank you for taking care of my student. Fumi braced herself against the wall, staring at Minato. You're... She blinked, and then looked very serious. The both of you should leave as soon as possible. Now, are you sure you'll be alright? Obito said, walking around Minato to talk to her. If they find out you helped me escape. It isn't Fumi-san's fault I found out where you were, and stormed into her house to get you back. Right? Minato winked and took out one of his kunai and put it down on the counter. I'll leave this for you. They will probably want to destroy it, but you can make it seem as though I attacked here. But isn't that bad too? Obito asked, raising his voice. I mean, we're technically not fighting Kumo right now. If they want to complain about it, they would have to admit to taking you in the first place. That would make them implicate themselves. Minato rested his hand on Obito's shoulder, above where the seal was. Well then, we'll be leaving. Please forgive the rude intrusion. They looked at him like they were looking at a ghost. In a way, that's exactly what he felt like. He knew now what it felt like to bend the shape of time and reality. Knowing what waited for him in the very near future, Obito could feel that same sensation in the pit of his stomach as he limped toward his teammates, leaning on one crutch. Oh, Obito? Obito! Rin ran toward him and threw her arms around him, laughing and crying at the same time. He winced in pain and she let go, apologizing immediately and covering her mouth in shock and horror as he lifted his shirt to show the mostly healed burn. Kakashi stood a little further back, but his expression was different from usual. His coal eyes widened as he saw his teammate back from the dead. He looked a lot more like his older self. Obito grinned and pretended that the tears in his eyes came from the pain. But really, he was still remembering the temporary sensation of Rin's arms around him, and remorse on older Kakashi's face. From now on, he would rewrite reality. I'm so glad you're awake, Naruto. The phrase, so quietly and sincerely spoken, surprised him into silence for a few seconds. Mainly because it was Sakura speaking, this time Sakura, not the older one who worried and fussed over him. But that was not the only way she resembled her older self right now. It was also in her smile. It was the same strange, painful smile she wore when she visited him in the hospital in the future. Was it already the time when she started doing that? Of course. You should know I won't go down that easily, Sakura-chan, Naruto said with a grin. But thanks for visiting me when I was knocked out. I'm glad someone was there when I woke up the first time, since it let everybody know I could come back. Oh yeah, what happened that time anyway? Sakura's smile got smaller, but it looked less forced. You really startled me then. Kakashi-sensei and Tsunade-sama thought you wouldn't be able to wake up until they caught whoever did that to you and made them reverse their jutsu. I guess there's a reason why they call you unpredictable. Naruto froze. Wait, did that mean, did she know already? He hadn't considered it much, but he was eventually going to have to deal with his friends learning about his Jinchuriki status again, right? Kakashi had been standing back near the door, but he came forward now. Yes, thank goodness. We still don't know what caused it, but it is a relief you were able to break out of it on your own. Naruto frowned. But Kakashi-sensei, I heard all about it from Tsunade-sama. Kakashi interrupted cheerfully. Oh. Did that mean they weren't telling anyone? Tsunade had said that they would be keeping it a secret for now, but Naruto didn't know that also meant Sakura and the rest of his former classmates. It would be better to not have everyone fussing over him about the dangers of Akatsuki. He had plenty enough of that in the future. At the same time, it felt awkward to have the truth hidden like that. Sakura pulled a chair over and sat down. Naruto. Yeah? Sakura looked down in her lap. Her hands gripped each other tightly, and her shoulders just barely shook. I am sorry. I couldn't stop him. I should have done something differently, I should have. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't do anything about it. And by the time I finally tried to do something, it was too late. What? No, it wasn't your fault, Sakura-chan, Naruto said, putting as much emphasis into as he could. I'm just glad you didn't get caught up with those otonin. It would have happened either way, believe me. You know how that guy is when he wants to do something. You would have just gotten hurt, so. Sakura flinched visibly at his words, making Naruto flounder even more, trying to find the right thing to say. That's not what I meant. Listen, I know it looks pretty bad, but we can get him back. We can save him, Sakura-chan. So what we need to focus on right now is getting as strong as we can, as soon as we can. We'll take him back and kick Orochimaru's ass while we're at it. How can you be so sure? How do you know? Sakura said quietly. Because Naruto stopped, mouth slightly open as he stared. How exactly was all that supposed to fit in with everything else? Was it really okay to let Sasuke end up the way he was in the future, caught between Orochimaru and the older Obito? Because I promise, he said firmly. Sakura looked up at him. I promise. Chapter 41, Grains of Sand. Reign of the Godame Hokage, Year 1. The gas lantern fizzled to life, and Kabuto snuffed the match on the metal tray below it. He turned around to examine the overburdened bookshelves lining the study. Despite his many years working for Orochimaru, he had yet to enter this room. Technically, he shouldn't be in here. The seal on the door was designed to respond only to Orochimaru. Kabuto had gotten around that with a minor bit of treachery, stealing some of Orochimaru's blood. Desperate times, as they say. He had no idea if anything useful would be among these dusty books and scrolls. But the team sent to escort Sasuke was very late. Too late for him to become the vessel for this iteration. They both knew it. Still, the failure made Kabuto restless. It chafed at his perfectionist nature. So to stop himself from circling how over and over in his mind, he went exploring. His hand paused over a thin volume that looked hand-bound, some kind of research log or journal. He slipped it from the shelf and leafed through it slowly. It seemed less like a scientific record, and more like a series of musings. Kabuto's interest waned quickly when he realized it was all theoretical. Then the words Edo Tensei caught his eye, and he quickly backtracked to the beginning of the entry. For all its mystery, the essence of living things can be understood as energy. The only difference between a living soul and a dead one is how malleable they are. Dead souls can never change. Even if they are brought back to the living world, they must stay as they were at the moment of death. That is one of the few ways to defeat the Edo Tensei's summoning technique. On the other hand, no matter what happens to a living soul, it will keep going, growing, adapting, until the body dies. That tenacity is more powerful than anything the Edo Tensei can produce. My existence, unbound by the limits of one physical form, has already proved that. But there are even more possibilities still untapped. Well now, snooping in sealed rooms while I am stuck in bed? Orochimaru leaned heavily on the door frame. His naturally pale face was clammy and taut with barely concealed pain. But he was smiling. No. Kabuto lowered the notebook and pushed the bridge of his glasses back. I thought there might be something else to help improve your condition. That being said, you should rest more. Sasuke-kun will arrive soon. For all the good it will do now. Orochimaru chuckled darkly. You won't find anything like that in here. These projects are all failures. Or to look at it optimistically, problems that don't have solutions yet. What is this? The Nidame's resurrection jutsu? Kabuto said, turning back to the book with interest. It's a prototype based on the Nidame's theories. The natural conclusion of his research into space-time and energy transference. Or that is what I would say, if it were possible. There is no vessel that can hold living souls from another plane. Not even a perfect genetic replica of the target. It isn't the same as splitting one's energy horizontally within the same plane, as in the Kagebun Shinjutsu. Ah. No longer interested, Kabuto put the book back on the shelf along with the others. Orochimaru-sama, please lay back down. I'll bring your medicine. A strange expression settled on Orochimaru's face. Physically, he still looked pale and worn, stretched to the limit of his current vessel. But the fatigue in his eyes was gone, and he looked far more intrigued than the current situation could explain. It's in the wrong place. Orochimaru-sama? That book. It was not here. Did you move it to this room? Kabuto pushed up his glasses, looking harassed. I assure you, I did not. No. It would be the opposite, wouldn't it? Here isn't unusual. What is unusual is finding it somewhere else. Should I bring this along? Kabuto reached back toward the shelf uncertainly. He had no idea what Orochimaru was getting at. No. Leave it there. The brief flicker of enthusiasm was gone, and Orochimaru turned to shuffle painfully back to his room. Kabuto gave a last doubtful glance at the shelf, then extinguished the lamp. Later, after Orochimaru found a new vessel and regained his strength, Kabuto asked if he wanted the book again. Orochimaru was too preoccupied with other things and ignored him. Kabuto chalked the odd moment up to physical strain and exhaustion. The day after Naruto woke in his own body and timeline, he was not allowed to have very many visitors, or even get out of bed. Only Sakura was there after he fell asleep again. Naruto would be glad when his strength was back to normal. It was quiet and boring, having to stay in bed and see hardly anyone. He was grateful not to be entirely alone, but Sakura mostly just sat and read a book. Naruto was surprised when Jiraiya came to visit him that evening, after just that morning, when he had acted too busy to hang around. How is it going? I see Tsunade hasn't had to put the restraints on you yet. Jiraiya's jovial voice came from the door, and Naruto and Sakura looked up at him. Sakura stood from her chair. Not so loud, Jiraiya-sama, she said with the slightest tinge of disapproval. We're supposed to maintain a calm environment. Naruto gave Jiraiya a pleading look. Jiraiya laughed. I see. You get the second Tsunade instead. I was going to sing, but I guess I'll spare you. Tada! He revealed the hand he held behind his back. In it was a small cardboard box, opened up to reveal a cake. Tsunade-sama said no solid foods yet. Sakura said, yet, there was an undeniable gleam in her eyes as she took the box and placed it on Naruto's bedside table. What's this for, Ero-sennin? Naruto said, staring at the box. I figured you might not know, since you have been out cold all this time. It was your birthday yesterday. Happy lucky 13, kid. Eh? Naruto scooted as close to the edge of the bed as he could in to examine his cake. It had completely slipped his mind. Did that mean he'd spent part of his birthday in the future? Or were the days completely different? You came close to missing your own birthday. I tried to negotiate for getting you out for a little while, but it was a no-go. You'll have to make do with this. Man, this is the worst, Naruto complained, but the grin gave away his insincerity. True, being stuck in the hospital was a letdown. But time was moving forward with him in it again. Sakura, why don't you go ask Tsunade if we can let Naruto have some of this cake? Jiraiya said, waving a cake server he produced out of nowhere. I don't think my puppy dog look would be as effective as yours. I've overused it. I can try. Sakura crossed her arms behind her back and rocked on her heels. If not, it'll just have to be confiscated. Sakura-chan. Sakura gave an impish grin and walked to the door. I'll be right back. Naruto muttered something incoherent, and Jiraiya put the cake server down next to the box. Then he walked around and sat in the vacant chair. You should take the time to recover well, because we'll be leaving pretty quickly after that. I have things to do in the meantime, but I'll be keeping in touch. Naruto looked up. This was the news he most wanted to hear. We're gonna be training, right? What sort of things are we going to do? I was originally thinking we could work on harnessing the Kyuubi's energy. Jiraiya leaned back in his chair, scratching his chin. But from what you told me about the seal, it sounds like we need to be especially careful there. It's still an option. The main thing, though, is to start off working with your strengths. You said you can use Sage Mode now? Yeah. I haven't tried it with my real body, though. In that case, don't try it until you've regained some of your physical strength. Physical energy is an important part of the balance. While you're stuck here, you can practice meditating, but don't try to push yourself into the mode. Okay, Naruto said, disappointed. We'll see how far we can stretch your abilities, then move to finding unique ways you can incorporate it into your style. I have no doubt you'll discover a few. My older self could use Bunshin to gather energy for him. Naruto leaned forward excitedly. I want to learn how to do that. Jiraiya gave an understanding hum. That sounds good. But you can't limit yourself to what that other you came up with. Aim to do even better than him, okay? Use your recovery time to think up some good ideas. OSU. Third Shinobi World War. Detecting enemies is a vital skill for any shinobi. Namikaze Minato began to the academy's students sitting around him. Their eager faces were rapt with attention on Konoha's great hero. Most of them had started attending academy after the war started, so they rarely got a chance to see the yellow flash in person. Fortunately, our brains are good at this, even before we receive shinobi training. Have you ever been out at night and mistook a pole or trash can as a person standing there? The potential for danger makes it noticeable to us. On the other hand, you've probably never seen a person and thought they were a trash can. The students giggled. Obito turned his head to stare pointedly at Kakashi. The latter gave a rude misuse of his hand-signing talents in response. Annoying. But that is also why shinobi spend so much time developing techniques to twist enemies' perceptions. The mind is quick to accept what it sees as reality. That's why we have to be careful. Always assume your senses might be lying to you. Minato's clear blue eyes slid toward his team in the back, resting on them for the barest second before returning to the children. Rin leaned forward and raised a brow at Obito, who immediately dropped his scowl and looked down at the ground. It was just another day in Team Minato. Technically, they were on leave after their latest mission, a mission Obito hadn't been part of, because he was too busy being dead. But they were at the academy today filling in for the Sandaime, who was supposed to be giving the kids his twice-yearly inspirational pep talk. Something important had come up suddenly, leaving Minato to fill in. That sort of thing was happening a lot lately. But it wasn't until the past few days that Obito understood why. Minato himself seemed oblivious to it, always agreeing dutifully without questioning it. I worry for the village if those are supposed to be our next round of genin, Kakashi said after they were finally free for the day. He was walking with his arms crossed behind his head. Obito wanted to kick him. Just in general, really. No one starts out knowing everything. That's what the academy is for, Rin said. She tucked a lock of hair behind her ear and flashed a tolerant smile at Obito. It made his heart skip a beat. You've gotten better at throwing skills. Try not to train on your own too much while you're still healing. I'm healed. I don't want to slow us down in our next mission. You all did a good job today, Minato said. We'll still be on our break tomorrow, but I'd like us to run some team drills in the morning to make sure we're all in sync. Until then, be sure to rest. They all went their separate ways. But Minato soon fell into step beside Obito. I'm going back this way, too. I was thinking about having lunch at this new ramen place called the Chirakas. Have you been there yet? His grin was like a quieter version of Naruto's. I was just going to go home. I'm kind of tired, Obito invented. For now, he was keeping the time travel and his new skills a secret. So he had to use every available moment by himself to practice. Tonight he was going to try using Kamure for the first time since he got back. All right. I understand, Minato said gently. Obito could have smacked himself in the forehead. Of course Minato was worried about him. He and everyone else thought that Obito had spent the past few weeks as a captive in enemy territory. It was true, yet very far from the truth. Actually, wait, he said. Minato turned back to him. I'll go with you. I don't have anything good at home, anyway. Minato visibly relaxed. For a high-level jounin, he could be easy to read sometimes. Obito didn't like having to deceive him, even for a little while. He planned to tell the whole story once he was sure it wouldn't change the timeline too much. You've really been working hard, even on days like today, Minato said as they walked. You paid attention better than any of the students did. Yeah. I realized I need to try harder if I want to be Hokage someday. I see. Minato smiled. Obito waited until the village was dark and quiet before he made his move. If he slipped into the Kamui dimension and got stuck, like the very first time, at least he'd have enough time to recover before someone came looking for him. He held his hands out in front of him. Unnecessary, but it helped him visualize what he was going for. Stepping through the barrier between dimensions could be easy or difficult, soft or unyielding. All it required was the right push. Obito concentrated, moving his hands apart, pushing through as if he was simply stepping through a curtain. There was no strain. Just a noticeable shift in the light and the feeling of the air. He opened his eyes. Yes! The Kamui dimension spread out in every direction, stretching so far it disappeared into a mysterious darkness. Elation pulsed through his veins. Through his human veins. It still worked. His greatest weapon made it back home with him. Grinning around at nothing, Obito ran and clambered up the highest block close to him. His mind was already buzzing with the different ways he would be able to use this. Training in secret would be a lot easier. He could keep extra weapons and supplies without even needing to carry storage scrolls. And most importantly, it was the perfect place to flee in case of danger. An irregularity in the angular landscape caught Obito's eye. From his vantage point, it looked like a strange black splotch on the uniform gray surface of one of the blocks. He jumped down and walked over to it carefully, excitement giving way to caution. It didn't take long to see that the black smudge wasn't the only thing. A thin, freestanding wall stood on the block, half crumbled. On the other side of it was a hole. There were smaller black smudges everywhere. Obito crouched down in front of the large black mark, feeling his breath go shallow. He put his hand down on the cold stone, one finger drawing a line through the soot. This was, without a doubt, the same place his older self and the older Kakashi had fought.